Chapter 1158. Nature is still hidden. Creation has its origin power. Spirituality is connected with creation. Mountains and streams are reflected on the jade pendant. Mechanism within mechanism, change within change. How can wisdom be relied on? Everything changes, but there is no rest. Moving with the flow or returning with a push. His form and chi changed continuously, changing and disappearing. Who's words won't come out of nowhere. Misfortune is a blessing in disguise. Misfortune is a blessing in disguise. Sorrow and joy gather in the same place. Good and bad are in the same domain. Heaven and earth are the furnace. Creation is the worker. Yin and yang are the charcoal. Everything is the copper. Creation is beautiful. Yin and yang cut through the dawn. Merit and creation compete for flow. Virtue and yin and yang are greater. Things in heaven and earth were too mysterious. There were mysteries hidden within mysteries. There would be other changes in changes. If he didn't have the divine demon martial soul to deduce, he wouldn't have the confidence to comprehend the Heart Sutra of creation. It was too mysterious. Rumble. Chu Yang's powerful foundation was revealed at this time. The chaotic spirit body and the chaos cycle of the ascending soul realm were triggered the moment the Heart Sutra of creation was activated. In the deepest part of his body, the chaotic chi was immediately formed and appeared. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Inside the universal millstone began to vibrate. What was different this time was that yin and yang appeared first, and then the four symbols, vermilion bird, black tortoise, white tiger, and azure dragon, appeared on the millstone. At the same time, the sun, moon, stars, mountains, lakes, rolling rivers, birds, fish, and insects all appeared on the universal globe. My deduction is not wrong. Even if you don't get the Heart Sutra of creation, you can master the creation divine ability at some point. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. Wild dog, what are you laughing at? Do you think that we can't kill a wild dog with so many people in the East Continent? At this time, the headmasters of the 6 great academies couldn't see through Chu Yang. They finally sent people to test him. The timing was perfect. Just as he was sneering, after a period of patience, many people in the East Continent had become restless. Chu Yang looked at the young man with a smile. Lu Ji, 7th level of the Transcendence realm. How can our East Continent be mocked by a wild dog? I don't believe that a wild dog can do anything. A crippled middle-aged man sneered. Wild dog, other than the lightning retribution, I don't think he has any other trump cards left. Everyone, let's charge forward and tear him apart. That's right. Wild dog is just bluffing. If I'm scared by him, I don't know how much this wild dog will belittle me, and I don't know how many years I'll be laughed at for. We can't tolerate it. How can we allow a mere wild dog, a trash at the 7th level of the spirit stage, to defecate on our heads? Kill him, we must kill him. The crowd was stirred up. So, it was easy for the leader to set the pace. Then, many people surrounded Chu Yang and approached him step by step. Chu Yang sneered in his heart. It was truly difficult to persuade those who deserved to die. Even if he did not comprehend the creation divine ability, he could break through to the 8th or 9th level of the spirit stage at any time and attract the lightning retribution. Because he had absorbed the 7 soul origins of the 2 supreme figures, his 7 soul origins were extremely powerful and vigorous. It had even given birth to the divine twins. Breaking through to the next realm was just a matter of a thought from him. Chu Yang looked at these damned people and smiled brilliantly. There's a little cutie that wants me to tell you that he was touched by your passion. If he appears, everyone, please don't be so excited that you faint. Wild dog, you're trying to act mysterious again. Who do you think you can fool? Lu Ji said with contempt. The crippled middle-aged man also sneered. You're about to die, yet you're still so ignorant. Follow me and chop up this wild dog. Rumble! Under the lead of the six-fingered young man and the crippled middle-aged man, the people from the East Continent flooded over like a tidal wave. Their momentum was extremely shocking. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were charging over. Many spiritual forces locked onto Chu Yang. Countless people had used their heaven and earth palm to reinforce the space where he was at. They had completely locked down the entire void, making it impossible for him to teleport. He even felt as if he was frozen in amber. In an instant, the six-fingered young man's sneer, the crippled middle-aged man's grin, and the furious faces were all imprinted in his eyes. At this moment, time seemed to have slowed down. The six-fingered young man and the others could clearly see the smile on Chu Yang's face. It was getting more and more obvious, and it was getting bigger and bigger. In the end, it turned into a cold sneer. Rumble! Thunder rumbled out from the void and scared the souls of the people from the East Continent out of their bodies. They all stopped in unison. Chapter 1159. Lightning Tribulation. The six-fingered youth and the crippled middle-aged man felt their scalps tingling. Before the lightning tribulation arrived, they were already charred on the outside and tender on the inside. Smoke was coming out of their bodies, turning them into dead people. Cute, this lightning tribulation was so cute that it could kill. The six-fingered youth and the crippled middle-aged man wanted to cry when they saw such a cute little thing. They had never seen someone play with people like this. They weren't here to kill people, they were here to die. Feng Polong looked at the endless lightning above Chu Yang's head and was a little confused. This random trick was used again and again, but it was more effective each time. There was no justice in this world. Su Yiling was looking forward to the shameless bastard being torn apart, but as she expected, this group of people were all cheated. How could such a shameless bastard not suffer in the future? She knew that this might happen, but at this moment she couldn't help but grind her teeth. Shameless bastard, you like to play with lightning, right? One day, I'll use lightning to strike you to death. Rumble! After the six-fingered youth and the rest stopped, they instantly turned around and ran for their lives. They ran as fast as they came. At this moment they hated that their parents didn't give them more legs. The scene was like a defeated army. No one cared about anyone else. They were strong and their movement techniques were fast. They directly knocked away those who blocked their way. It was chaos. Everyone, what is the meaning of this? The little cutie is going to be angry. Only a bastard like you can call the lightning tribulation a little cutie. Rumble! They ran fast, but the lightning tribulation descended even faster. In an instant, the lightning tribulation descended like dumplings. Many people in the void fell down and died without any sound. A lightning tribulation 2 levels higher than the wild dog. The pupils of the 6 hall masters shrank. Could the wild dog control the lightning tribulation at will? Everyone, if you don't like this little cutie, then let's change it. Chu Yang used the reincarnation gourd to collect the souls of those who were struck to death by the lightning tribulation. Then, he used the creation ability and flicked his fingers. In an instant, 8 people appeared and knelt in 8 different directions. 7 kneels of the Star-Lord. Bang bang bang! Among the 8 of them, those who were at least at the Nirvana realm directly exploded. In the end, only 4 of them were left, and those in the 4 directions immediately died. Not a single one survived. Lightning tribulation and 7 kneeling celestial venerate. That was enough. The faces of the 6 headmasters were extremely ugly. They wanted to force out the wild dog's trump card to ensure that nothing would go wrong. However, the wild dog only had these few moves, which made them irritated. They gritted their teeth secretly and almost couldn't hold back the fire. Celestial Lord 7 kneels. With my current realm, it seems that I can only attack those in the Transcendence realm. When they heard Wild Dog's voice, the expressions of the 6 people turned even gloomier. The Wild Dog actually had the energy and mood to check the limits of the Star Venerate's 7 kneels. Whoosh! Suddenly, Chu Yang disappeared. After everyone lost sight of him, They followed the direction of the lightning tribulation and caught sight of him again. He had already appeared behind the six-fingered youth. Rumble! Rumbling thunder came from behind. When the six-fingered youth noticed, he suddenly felt intense pain. He lowered his head and saw the tip of a sword emerging from his heart, flickering with light. Chapter 1160. Little Cutie Number 3, #yen. Before the six-fingered young man could finish cursing, his head tilted and he died. People from the East Continent were shocked again. Wild Dog could teleport, so it was easy for him to sneak attack and kill people. Little dog, don't run. I'm asking you which cutie number you want. Hearing this, the crippled middle-aged man shivered as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Wild Dog was going to settle accounts with him. He fled like crazy, like a frightened dog. But the rumbling thunder was always near him. People from the East Continent and even the heads of the 6 great academies were looking at him. He suddenly seemed to have become the center of the world, but it was creepy. He was definitely not the center of the world. Wild Dog was now the center of everyone's attention, the center of the world. But Wild Dog didn't attack him. He just followed him closely like a ghost. However, in an instant, the extreme fear caused his entire body to be drenched in sweat. It was incomparably torturous. Time seemed to have been stretched out endlessly, magnifying his anxiety and fear. Every day felt like a year. Little dog, I once told Beichinshing Maggot that death may be terrible, but waiting for death is the most torturous. Why are you running? Can't you tell me how you feel? I'm very curious. You're curious? Can you not ask me? How can you bully me like this? The crippled middle-aged man wanted to cry. In the end he cursed, Wild Dog, you #yen %. Little dog, your barking is quite fierce, isn't it? A cat playing with a mouse. The crippled middle-aged man couldn't get rid of Wild Dog. He was completely desperate and angry. He roared, Wild Dog, I'll fight you to the death. But as soon as he turned around, thunder suddenly sounded behind him. Like the six-fingered young man, he immediately saw the shiny sword tip coming out of his heart. At this time, he knew what the six-fingered young man had just experienced. The sword pierced through his body and cut everything in its path into pieces. I shouldn't have provoked this psychopath. That was the last thought he had before he died. After that, the people from the East Continent realized that the Wild Dog had a very good memory and was extremely vengeful. Those who had led the group to kill him were all killed one by one. None of them escaped. It took a long time, and the lightning tribulation had already passed. However, the Wild Dog immediately broke through to the 8th level of the spirit realm. 7 spirit wheels appeared in his body, forming a line of 7 stars. This caused the lightning punishment to descend once again. Rumble! Listening to the rumbling thunder, everyone wanted to curse. They had never seen such a bastard. He actually used the lightning tribulation to bully others. He really deserved to be struck by lightning. However, the people from the East Continent had no time to curse. This time, Wild Dog was going to attack the headmasters of the 6 great academies. 6 puppies, I'm very curious if you will run away later, hee. Whoosh! Chu Yang snickered. Suddenly, he charged towards the headmasters of the 6 great academies, wanting to use the lightning tribulation to oppress them. Such a scene made everyone from the East Continent feel like their hearts were about to explode. Could it be that Wild Dog wanted to kill the headmasters of the 6 great academies? He really dared to think about it. The headmasters of the 6 great academies had a gloomy expression on their faces. In an instant, a deathly aura surged out from their bodies and covered a large area. Once the Wild Dog entered the deathly aura, he would definitely die. However, the pupils of the 6 people shrank. Facing the deathly aura, the Wild Dog didn't even try to avoid it. Instead, he directly charged towards it. The Wanxiang Courtyard's headmaster was like a cat that had its tail stepped on. He was so shocked that he immediately retracted the deathly aura and ran away. Chapter 1161. Puppy of All Creations, Don't Run! When the master of the All Creations Academy was furious, he found that Chu Yang had abandoned him and suddenly rushed to the other 5 people. In an instant, the 5 hall masters were like 5 huge rats that had encountered a snake, fleeing in all directions. Such a scene was like a peerless famous painting, which was rare to see. If it was spread out, Chu Yang's name would be passed down through the ages even if he died. Wild dog, knowing that he can't escape, is he going to risk his life? Even if he dies, he will drag one of them down with him. The 6 people were so angry that they almost fainted. They were really like being chased and bitten by a mad dog. They couldn't rest for a moment and kept dodging. In the end, they found that the wild dog was staring at a Saint Master of the Sky Academy. The Saint Master was proficient in spacetime skills and posed the greatest threat to the wild dog, so he became the wild dog's main target. Not only the 5 people thought so, but the Saint Master also thought so. Puppy, be good, don't run. I have bones here. The Saint Master was proficient in spacetime skills and dodged leisurely. Chu Yang immediately changed his method and humiliated the Saint Master with a smile, as if he was teasing a puppy. He even took a corpse as a bone and let the Saint Master gnaw on it. Everyone was speechless. They never thought that they would see or hear such a scene one day. It seemed that they would be satisfied even if they died immediately. The dignified Master of the Sky Academy and the famous Saint Master in the East Continent was teased by a junior like a puppy. It was rare and unheard of. If this spread out, he would be laughed at by others. What face would he have left? Puppy, why are you running? Is a little cutie so scary? If you continue to do this, I will be angry and catch you. Do you think I will still take you out in the future? Puppy, which bitch are you going to find? If you don't listen to me, I will castrate you. Swish. Swish. Chu Yang teleported, and so did the Sage Master. He flickered continuously, and his brilliant speech was even more numerous and varied. It was like a torrential river that flowed continuously, petrifying everyone present. It was deeply engraved in everyone's minds, and they might never be able to forget it. The sacred sovereign was continuously humiliated. Even though his expression didn't change much, nor did he erupt with any terrifying aura, his eyes became more and more malicious as he stared coldly at Chu Yang. It was like absolute zero. It was terrifying. Wherever he looked, it seemed like it was going to freeze and crack. Wherever Chu Yang was, the space there seemed to be frozen, and anyone who came into contact with the sacred expert's line of sight would directly fall weak onto the ground. Chu Yang was not afraid at all. He sneered in his heart, "Old bastard, are you very angry? I want to slap your face, make you lose all your dignity, and make you angry. So what if you want to kill me? I'm not afraid of you." In the Sky Academy, no matter how good the test results were, the people in the Eastern Wilderness could only enter the Chores Academy. Chu Yang had always kept this rule in mind. Now that he had time, he naturally wanted to tease this old bastard and make him feel disgraced. None of the Academy Masters of the 6 academies could be killed by Chu Yang now, because the difference in their realms was too great. Therefore, even if he could teleport, it was absolutely impossible with the help of thunder. However, he could still humiliate them, just like now. After Chu Yang teased the sacred sovereign for a while, he stopped. "Puppy, how do you feel? Express your excitement now. If this matter spreads out today and the people outside hear that you were chased like a dog for half a day, I guarantee that you will definitely win an award." How about the puppy award? The sacred sovereign didn't say anything. At this time, his face actually became incomparably calm, and even the coldness in his eyes had disappeared. He was calm and collected, without joy, sorrow, or anger, as if he had never been angry before. "Puppy, you're very interesting. As a reward, I plan to tell you a story." Chu Yang directly began the next step of the plan. When he pointed at the 7 wheels demon realm and spoke again, the sacred sovereign's expression couldn't help but change. That's right. The story that the strongest storyteller in history wants to tell must be related to this supreme existence. After a pause, he continued, "If you want to hear it, I ask you to applaud. Without applause, the strongest storyteller in history won't bring you a pleasant story." This bastard never played by the rules, but it was up to him whether he wanted to tell it or not. Did he really think that they were willing to listen? However, what surprised everyone in the East Continent was that the sacred sovereign, who had been chased around like a puppy, actually took the lead to applaud first. Clap, clap, clap. For a moment, the applause was like a tide, endless. Chu Yang laughed when he heard the applause, especially when the sacred sovereign applauded first. He was even more proud in his heart. He had a bullshit story, and he knew nothing about the supreme demon venerable. He was just full of nonsense, and he actually deceived a group of old people. Chapter 1162. Very good applause. It seems that although the maggots of the East grew up eating shit, they are still grateful to the people who poop. You are all good maggots. Hashtag yen%%. Who knew how many people were cursing in their hearts? This was too much. A mere wild dog said that they grew up eating shit and were maggot. If it wasn't for this wild dog using the lightning tribulation to abuse his power, he would be eating shit right now. Anger welled up within him. Almost everyone present was fuming with anger. They had never seen such a meticulous, vengeful person. Wild Dog was simply too crafty. Yes, yes, yes. Chu Yang cleared his throat and then said, "Long, long ago." What the hell? The first sentence Chu Yang made everyone stare in shock. What are you looking at? Chu Yang criticized them. The strongest storyteller always starts like this. You're not humble. Do you want to be like this? Reflect on yourself for half an hour. To hell with the strongest storyteller. Are you telling a story or spouting nonsense? But the 6 hall masters didn't say anything. They really had to reflect on themselves for a quarter of an hour before Wild Dog began. A long, long time ago there was a mountain. There was a temple on the mountain. There were 2 monks in the temple. One was an old monk, and the other was a young monk. The young monk asked the old monk to tell him a story. So the old monk told this story. A long, long time ago there was a mountain. There was a temple on the mountain. There were 2 monks in the temple. One was an old monk, and the other was a young monk. The young monk asked the old monk to tell him a story. Such a story, such a touching story. So people collapsed, feeling that their worldview had collapsed. However, Chu Yang continued his wonderful story as if he didn't notice it, so the old monk told this story. It was an endless cycle, endless, endless, and endless. Everyone from the East Continent was so angry that they felt dizzy. It was as if there was a curse above their heads. Their faces were black as they gnashed their teeth. The sound of teeth grinding could be heard. Your sister. Even a great beauty like Su Yiling couldn't help but curse at this moment. She gritted her teeth and scolded him word by word. It was obvious how much hatred she had in her heart. Originally, when she heard about the 7 wheels demonic realm and this supreme figure, she pricked up her ears to listen. She didn't expect to hear such a story in the end. Once upon a time, there was a mountain, and on the mountain, there was a temple. She even had the heart to perish together with Chu Yang. As for the sacred expert, he could no longer maintain his calm. The veins on his face bulged, and the 3-corpse god jumped about. Chu Yang looked at the angry faces, but he was indifferent and calm. He even secretly sneered. If you don't agree, come and bite me to death. I've already been very benevolent, telling you the most classic story from another world. You're all in for a treat. Then, he made the first move. He glared at everyone in the East Continent and shouted, I can see your impatience. Do you think I'm fooling you? If he wasn't stupid, then he was a ghost. You actually have the cheek to ask, and the cheek to be angry. Everyone in the East Continent's eyes were about to spit fire. If you don't want to hear it, then I won't say it now. Chu Yang immediately turned his anger into laughter. He said with a smile, however, you better not regret it, because this is really related to the Supreme Demon Lord. It's an even more touching story. He was in a poetic mood again. With his hands behind his back, he recited, "What is love in the world? Until life and death. Flying travelers from the south to the north. How many times does the old wing go through winter and summer? Joy is interesting, parting is painful, and there are even more infatuated children. A gentleman should have words. Thousands of miles of clouds, thousands of mountains, sunset snow, only the shadow of who to go to." Chapter 1163. I'm going to drip those circles. Fong Polong couldn't hold it in anymore. He was so angry that his face turned red and his teeth chattered. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Eastern Wilderness 002, believe it or not, I'll smash that mouth of yours even if I have to give up my life. The 6 hall masters also faintly wanted to fight to the death with Chu Yang. They couldn't bear it anymore. This was too infuriating. In fact, they were enemies, but who dared not to give them some face? Sigh. Chu Yang finally felt a little guilty. Then, he shook his head and pretended to sigh. This story really makes those who hear it sad and those who listen cry. He was still blabbering on, endlessly nagging. Boom. Fong Polong went berserk. The air around him exploded, and he rushed over like a tyrannosaurus. Have you heard that a bow in front of the devil makes one not an immortal in the mortal world? Dong. A loud sound. Such a serious sentence made Fong Polong stomp on the ground and stop, but his eyes still looked like they could eat people. Actually, the story I told you just now is true. Chu Yang pretended to be reminiscing. In the Eastern Wilderness, there was a man and a woman who fell in love at first sight. Then, they were incomparably loving and sweet. The woman didn't know how to tell stories, but she liked to tell stories. Therefore, she told that story to the man. The man didn't get tired of listening to it for 3 days and 3 nights. He didn't get tired of it even after more than 10 years. Was there such a stupid woman? Was this man sick? Everyone was suspicious, thinking that Chu Yang was talking nonsense again. Don't look at me with that murderous gaze. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, do you understand? No matter how bad this woman's story is, so what? Is it important? What's important is that the woman is willing to tell and the man is willing to listen. Of course the woman is not stupid. She kept telling such an infinite story because she wanted to see the man's silly look, his doting eyes. Men are not stupid in the slightest. It's just that no matter how ridiculous and bizarre a woman's words are, as long as a woman's voice enters his ears, he will feel that he is the happiest person in the world, without exception. This bastard had actually made up for it. Even if Su Eling suspected that this story was fake, she would rather it be real. How good would it be if she could find such a man? Don't tell me that man is this supreme being, Fong Polong said as he pointed at the 7 wheels demonic realm. He clearly had the urge to go berserk again. Things like Chu Yang could simply turn a person into a maniac. Chu Yang snapped his fingers. Brother Fong, you got it right. You are indeed worthy of being the man who will fight me in the future. You are like the wind. He must be a crazy man. Fong Polong cursed in his heart, but he had no other choice. Wasn't it because the 6 great courtyard heads had forced him to do so? At this time, he was the only one who was suitable to talk back to Chu Yang. The Supreme Demon Venerable was of great importance. Even if the 6 great academies knew that they might be fooled, they were still willing to try. One day, after a pause, Chu Yang suddenly said, "Let me put it simply. One day, a man and a woman were being hunted down by righteous people. The woman blocked a sword for the man and died. After the man became a devil and took revenge, he wanted to revive the woman. His nonsense had no limits. If the parrot was here, it would definitely be shocked. Chapter 1164. Eastern Wilderness 002, Your story isn't good at all. Fong Polong sneered. Do you think we're all fools? This bullshit story was simply too ridiculous. You think it's fake because it didn't get to the point, right? For example, what's my relationship with the Supreme Demon Lord, right? Chu Yang showed a sad expression, and then like a rooster, he puffed out his chest and said proudly, I can tell you clearly that he's my ancestor. The Supreme Demon Lord was the ancestor of Eastern Wilderness 002. Chu Yang was talking nonsense and randomly claiming that he was his ancestor, but it also stunned everyone in the East Continent. So, in this Seven Wheels demon realm, I'm omnipotent. Chu Yang began to show evidence. For example, I don't need to understand the 7 Kneels of the Star Lord, let alone know how to do it. I can do it with a thought. And this, screech. With a long, high-pitched cry, a vermilion bird appeared behind Chu Yang. Li Shengsan's creation theurgy. Fong Polong was stunned. Even though he didn't believe a single word of Chu Yang's nonsense, but this strike of his made him see stars. He didn't know where he was, nor who his parents were. Actually, this isn't my real body now. Chu Yang spoke again, and it was earth-shattering. He pointed at Wang Bushong on his back. He's not real either. The 6 old bastards should have noticed it long ago. After all, his smile just now didn't match his identity at all. Disperse. His words were like the law. Wang Bushong on his back silently spread open 3 times and disappeared. This was Chu Yang's divine son of the celestial demon twin theurgy, and then transformed into him with the celestial demon walk technique. Such a scene made everyone unable to believe it. It was as if they were all dead. If that was the case, what were they doing just now? They were all treated as fools and teased over and over again. They were so stupid that they could kill themselves. Everyone from the East Continent. Chu Yang suddenly became courteous. He cupped his fists at everyone and said, The East Continent scolded the Eastern Wilderness as a wild dog, but the Eastern Wilderness can also scold the East Continent as a maggot. This will only lead to generations of enmity. When will it end? Today, I revealed my ancestor's identity to tell you that there are still people in the Eastern Wilderness. We'll let you go back. You should think about what you want to do in the future. This was not Chu Yang's goal. He just wanted to tease the people of the East Continent. However, he was too excited after talking nonsense. He even pretended to be his ancestor. In the end, he could not find a way to smooth things over. He could only borrow the power of the Supreme Demon Lord to intimidate the East Continent. However, toying with the heroes of the East Continent like toying with monkeys and turning them into innocent and pure children seemed to be very interesting. In any case, he felt that it was not bad. Boom. Therefore, Chu Yang looked at the crowd with a mysterious smile like Mona Lisa. Then, his body exploded, turned into a stream of air, and flew in the direction of the demonic bell. However, at this time, his voice came from there. If the East Continent doesn't change its appearance and I appear again, the East Continent will be destroyed. Everyone, this is my last kindness. Otherwise, you will all be buried with my ancestor. You're on your own now. The words of the expert and the heart of the people suddenly made everyone feel confused. They were sure that this was the wild dog. Dang, dang, dang. The melodious sound of the bell rolled. Visible black ripples came from afar. The ripples finally turned into waves and rushed over. The people of the East Continent were still confused. They could not tell whether it was real or not. Ancestor, descendants, please rest in peace. However, they did not have time to think. Chu Yang's voice came again. In the direction of the demonic bell, it was drowned in endless darkness. The demonic bell floated up like a black sun, and its whole body was burning with demonic fire. Chu Yang and Wang Bushong were already inside the demonic bell. Wild Dog, no, Eastern Wilderness 002 controlled the demonic bell? At this moment, even the dean of the Star Combat Academy did not dare to belittle Chu Yang. This was because Chu Yang was very likely to be the descendant of the Supreme Demon Venerable. Otherwise, everything that happened could not be explained. However, they still had doubts. Suddenly, they saw Chu Yang take out a flag and throw it into the demonic bell's array. A demonic figure appeared in the demonic bell. They suddenly felt as if they were struck by lightning, and their minds went blank. Really? Wild Dog was actually the descendant of the Supreme Demon Venerable. Endless darkness swept over from the direction of the demonic bell. The 7 demonic realm rumbled as if it was about to collapse. No matter how doubtful the people of the East Continent were, they had no choice but to run for their lives. That wicked thing was definitely not a kind person. If they were a moment later, they would probably be buried with him. Let's go. The dean of the 6 great academies also hurriedly left. However, in an instant they had already disappeared. This made the people of the East Continent panic even more, and they ran even faster. Chapter 1165. Outside the 7 Wheels demonic realm, the sky was very low and the clouds were very dark. The demonic chi was like clouds, drifting around like ghosts. From time to time, strange sounds or ghostly cries could be heard. The demonic chi was eerie. In the area where the demonic chi was the densest, a dazzling light flashed from time to time, like a star flashing in the night sky. Looking carefully at the light, it was a shiny bald head. It was very eye-catching. No matter how dark the demonic chi was, it couldn't block out its light. It seemed to be a godlike bald head. Such a bald head, it must be the bald head of some enlightened monk, but there were no scars on it. Looking again, the owner of this bald head had a chubby and cute little face. At this moment, it was endlessly devouring the demonic chi. In its body, from the top of its head, there seemed to be 7 great suns in a line. There was also a parrot between its eyebrows. Its body was surrounded by dazzling 9-colored light. It was solemn and holy like a Buddhist monk. Whoosh whoosh. The black demonic chi whistled, and the demonic chi in the surroundings was completely devoured by the bald little monk. Then, he suddenly opened his eyes. Immediately, a pair of sneaky eyes appeared, rolled around and looked around. Then, he laughed strangely. Waha, this divine bird can even devour the demonic chi now. I finally look like a monster. But his pride only lasted for half a second. The bald little monk's face fell. Pooh, inferior. Happy my ass, what's there to be happy about? To think that I, the number 1 divine bird in the Eastern Wilderness, can only absorb this inferior demonic chi. How shameless! Such a strange laugh, so indecent, and the spirit of a parrot. If it wasn't the parrot, who else could it be? At this moment, the parrot thought that it was wicked. Devouring high-grade demonic chi was not a problem at all. In the 7 Wheels demonic realm, it was like a fish in water. If people blocked it, it killed them. If Buddha blocked it, it killed Buddha. It felt even more depressed. How sad. A bird is inferior to a man. The virtuous is inferior to the wicked. What kind of world is this? How can a bird live? It was only able to absorb the inferior devil chi because of wicked man. If it hadn't absorbed the soul origin of the supreme devil venerable from the 7 Wheels devil domain, it wouldn't have been able to do it. This divine bird is still lacking some soup. You wicked thing, you have to bring back the supreme demon venerable's heaven-rush soul and spiritual intelligence soul before you die. At that time, this divine bird will be the one to slaughter in all directions, leading the rise of the Eastern Wilderness, making a name for myself, leaving my name in the annals of history for eternity. Waha. The parrot laughed strangely for a while, and then muttered, "Wicked, I guess he won't even give soup. This divine bird's premonition is not very good." Very soon, it became a little anxious. With its hands clasped behind its back, it paced back and forth anxiously like an adult. In the end it was annoyed and exploded. "Bastard Chu Hang, how dare you not bring this divine bird along when you're doing something big? This divine bird is so amazing. Wherever I go, I'm like a savior. You actually treat this divine bird as a burden. Chu Hang, you are guilty. You deserve to die." Rumble. At this moment, there was a sudden tremor in the direction of the Seven Wheels demonic realm. The ground there was collapsing at a visible speed. Suddenly, a big black hole appeared there, swallowing all the devil chi. The sky turned blue in an instant, the clouds turned white, the wind was no longer black, and the parrot was stunned. It stared dumbfoundedly at the Seven Wheels demonic realm sinking into the ground quickly, as if it was watching 100,000 mountains disappear quickly. Not long after, the Seven Wheels demonic realm was gone. It's gone just like that. It's as if a world has completely disappeared. How magical. Chapter 1166. Many people crawled out from behind the six bastard. It was as if an ant's hole had been filled with water. Some of them were crying for their parent. They were crying, laughing, and rejoicing after their deaths. They were venting their emotions to their heart's content. The parrot learned all the expressions of life in an instant. After that, it saw that everyone, including the six tortoises, had turned into human-shaped stone sculptures. They stared blankly at the sinking Seven Wheels demon domain and didn't make a sound for a long time. After circling around, there was that cross again. That wicked guy is so generous. He even used the Seven Wheels demon domain to play with. After the parrot came back to its senses, it jumped 3 feet high. Just by looking at the scene just now, it was unknown how many people wicked virtue had killed this time. Soon, mournful music would be played in every household in the East Continent, and white banners would be hung up. Everything would be white. In the white world, the sound of crying was endless. It was a magnificent sight. How could this wicked guy not bring this divine bird along? Where should this divine bird be now? How sad is it that this divine bird's name is not on the list for such an important matter? A bird is inferior to a human. What a miserable world this is. While the parrot was excited, it was also very depressed. It should have been involved in all the major events. That way, the world would be wonderful. After an unknown amount of time, the 6 tortoises said something and finally left. They didn't leave a single fart behind. The people of the East Continent also left. They were still discussing with each other in 2s and 3s. If this Eastern Wilderness 002 appears again, the East Continent will be in a reign of terror. What's the situation? The wicked guy tricked others, but in the end, he tricked himself. The parrot perked up its ears to listen. Not necessarily. After such a thing, I'm afraid our East Continent will have a great change. Change? Are you kidding? Those of us who have seen the power of Eastern Wilderness 002 naturally know how terrifying it is. But what about those who haven't seen it? They will definitely be in awe of Eastern Wilderness 002. That's right. If I didn't experience the Seven Wheels demon domain personally, I wouldn't believe it. Eastern Wilderness 002 is simply too terrifying. It's true that it's unprecedented and will never be surpassed. Damn, this is unprecedented and will never be done again. Such a high evaluation. The parrot's eyes bulged, and its worldview was about to collapse. These people from the East Continent always called the people from the Eastern Wilderness a wild dog, and even chased after and killed them. How much did they despise the people from the Eastern Wilderness? But now they were actually praising a wild dog and saying that it was the first of its kind. Could they be more reliable? This divine bird should be in a normal state, right? Did I hear wrongly? The parrot doubted its ears, doubted that it had just been hallucinating, and even doubted its life as a bird, doubted the whole world. It's not that it should be, it's that no one has ever done it before or since. Who can match up to Eastern Wilderness 002? That's right. The Star Child of the Star Academy is as weak as a dog in his hands. If Eastern Wilderness 002 wants to kill him, even the Academy Master of the Star Academy can't save him. Moreover, Eastern Wilderness 002 is only at the spirit realm. Now that I think about it, I'm almost scared out of my wit. Although he borrowed the power of the lightning tribulation, who could face it so easily? The Wanxiang child of the Wanxiang Academy, Li Xingsan, also died miserably. He grasped the creation divine ability and could transform into the vermilion bird, white tiger, azure dragon, and black tortoise. How shocking was that? But what happened in the end? Eastern Wilderness 002 didn't even have the chance to use his own abilities. He directly used the Star Academy's 7 Neels to kill him. Just thinking about it makes me sigh. Eastern Wilderness 002 actually grasped the 7 Neels in an instant. It's unimaginable. It's really unimaginable. The parrot wasn't shocked that the wicked person killed 2 little bastards and pressed them against the ground. It was shocked that the East Continent's view of the wicked person had changed. It was actually true? Chapter 1167. The world is so complicated. How can something like this happen? The parrot couldn't hold it in any longer. It walked toward the 2 people with a stunned expression and cupped its fists. Seniors, is what you just said true? I didn't hear wrong, did I? You actually said that a wild dog was unprecedented. That's too embarrassing for the East Continent. Wild dog. When the 2 heard this, they were startled and almost jumped up, as if they had done something extremely heinous and had been discovered. This made the parrot stare blankly again. These things before the barking of the wild dog was so smooth, but now, after hearing these 2 words, they actually turned into such a state. It was extremely depressed and said to itself, "You guys, can you be a little more normal? If this divine bird wasn't strong enough, I would have been turned into a fool by you guys just now." Lower your voice. You little baldy, shut up. The 2 people hurriedly said after they recovered from their fear. Especially when others looked over, they immediately distanced themselves from the parrot and tried to disassociate themselves. They cupped their fists and said to the crowd, "The one who humiliated the Eastern Wilderness was Little Baldy. It has nothing to do with us. I hope everyone can bear witness to this." The parrot was really dumbfounded this time. It was completely dumbfounded. What kind of virtue did he have to actually make the word wild dog become a taboo word? It was this Little Baldy who heard our discussion and came to question us in disbelief. That's why it was like this just now. That's right. We don't have the guts to be presumptuous here. The 2 children spared no effort in defending themselves. Please rest assured. How can people who have never experienced it know the horrors? I can bear witness to this. Someone immediately said, however, "I hope that the 2 of you will help me out when I am in need. Otherwise, Eastern Wilderness 001 or Eastern Wilderness 003 would appear. We would have died in vain." That's right. Everyone, we have to look out for each other. After all, there are too many people in the East Continent who despise the people of the Eastern Wilderness. It's inevitable that we will meet those who don't know what's good for them, like this Little Baldy. And if we're not careful, we might really be unlucky with them. We, the people from the 7-wheeled demon region, do indeed need to do this. Let's not talk about Eastern Wilderness 001 anymore. I even suspect that Eastern Wilderness 002 wasn't buried together with us. He doesn't need to be born at all. Perhaps he's among us right now. As soon as he said this, everyone around couldn't help but be shocked. Those who hadn't said anything before immediately joined in, trying their best to disassociate themselves from the word wild dog and describe themselves as friendly people in the Eastern Wilderness. When the parrot saw all this, it looked like a leaf in the autumn wind. It was being battered by the cold wind, and was on the verge of falling to the ground. What was going on with these things in front of him? Did they really want to tear down his temple? Could it be that such an unreasonable thing actually happened? It was still in disbelief, and it said, "Seniors, do you really have to go this far? However, it's just a wild dog. Although it's a genius, it's not like there's no one else in the East Continent who can do it." Who would have thought that as soon as the parrot finished speaking, a storm would suddenly come, and it would almost be killed? "Little bald head, shut up immediately! Whose idiot is this? Don't you know what trouble is coming out of your mouth? If you don't know how to spell the word death, don't drag us down with you. Son of a bitch, I almost said those 2 words just now. Little bald head, if you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll twist off your bald head." The parrot was speechless. What kind of infuriating and tragic thing did Chu Hang do to be able to educate these things in the East Continent so well that they were evolving from maggots to human form? Or rather, it's not that Chu Hang is magical, but that this divine bird's bald head is too shiny, and it's blinding their hearts. They're jealous, so they're using such a ridiculous excuse to attack this divine bird. The bald head is not guilty, the parrot shouted in its heart. Chapter 1168. Once the news of the 7-wheel demon realm spread out, not only was the parrot in disbelief, but many people in the Eastern Continent were also shocked. Many people in the Eastern Wilderness in the Eastern Continent were also shocked. They were all a little stunned, as if they were in a dream, floating, incomparably illusory, and incomparably unreal. Along with such incredulity and disbelief, news of Chu Yang's experience in the 7 rounds demon territory spread like a whirlwind. However, in an incomparably short period of time, the news had already spread throughout the entire Eastern Continent, and even to the neighboring continents. The 6 great academies were shocked. The myriad demon sect was shocked. The entire Eastern Continent was in an uproar. Previously, the rankings on the Divine Monument were already very shocking and had caused a great commotion, but compared to this, it was simply a small child in the presence of a great one. What happened in the 7-wheel demon realm sounded like a story, a fantasy story, but it had really happened. Therefore, the discussions in the Eastern Continent were even more intense. Regardless of whether it was cultivators or ordinary people, they were all involved. For a time, the entire Eastern Continent was in an uncontrollable uproar. Have you heard? The Eastern Wilderness 002 is actually the descendant of the Supreme Demon Sovereign in the 7-wheel demon realm. The Supreme Demon Sovereign I'm talking about is not the Demon Sovereign of the ancient demon sect. That Demon Sovereign is not qualified. What is the ancient Demon Sovereign in front of such a supreme figure? Can he be called the Supreme Demon Sovereign? Even if the Supreme Demon Sovereign is dead, his corpse can still destroy the ancient demon sect. You don't need to explain this. Such a supreme figure is actually from the Eastern Wilderness. I'm afraid something big is going to happen this time. It's not that something big is going to happen, but something big has already happened. I heard that Bai Chenxing of the Star Academy has already been killed, and Li Xingsan of the Myriad Elephant Academy has also been killed. Moreover, it is said that they died very miserably. The Supreme Demon Sovereign was the most shocking, most terrifying, and most feared. Therefore, the Supreme Demon Sovereign was from the Eastern Wilderness and was the most talked about. After that was Eastern Wilderness 002. Eastern Wilderness 002 isn't ranked first on the Divine Monument. Doesn't that mean that Eastern Wilderness 007 is even more shocking and terrifying? Although the rankings have great reference value, that Eastern Wilderness 002 might not have used all of its abilities. If it had used all of its abilities, it would definitely have suppressed Eastern Wilderness 007. I think so too. You guys don't know. Immediately, someone whispered, I heard that the Academy Masters of the 6 great academies were chased around by Eastern Wilderness 002 like puppies, fleeing for their lives. Brother, who doesn't know this? Another person said, Among the heads of the 6 academies, the most miserable one is the Saint Master of the Sky Academy. Eastern Wilderness 002 not only chased him around, but also teased him like a puppy. He even took a corpse for him to gnaw on like a bone and even castrated him. The dignified Saint Master of the Sky Academy was reduced to such a state. It can be seen that Eastern Wilderness 002 is amazing. The person who spoke before was not convinced and said in a muffled voice, "How can I not know this? I was just afraid that the Sky Academy would come to make trouble, so I didn't dare to say anything. If it's about Eastern Wilderness 002, everyone, I don't want to criticize you, but none of you here knows better than me." After that, he smiled proudly. When it happened, I have a relative who was in the 7-wheel demon realm at that time. According to him, Eastern Wilderness 002 killed many people with the help of the thunder punishment. Humph, I thought you would know more details. How disappointing. Chapter 1169. Is there something to this poem? Could it be related to Eastern Wilderness 002? Everyone's interest was immediately piqued. This person deliberately whetted everyone's appetite. What do you think? Also, have you heard of such a story? He posed and began to tell. Once upon a time there was a mountain, a temple on the mountain, and an old monk in the temple was telling a story. The story was, once upon a time there was a mountain, a temple on the mountain, and an old monk in the temple was telling a story. The endless cycle of the story began, and many versions were derived. What kind of bullshit story is this? Are you trying to tell us that this is the story that Eastern Wilderness 002 told to the 6 great academies? If Eastern Wilderness 002 told such a story to the 6 great academies, wouldn't he be treating the 6 great academies as fools? The 6 great academies knew that they were being fooled, so how could they listen to it? Hee hee. Seeing everyone's reaction, this person laughed and thought to himself, Eastern Wilderness 002 was probably even happier at that time. After that, he said, that's why, of all the people here, I'm the only one who knows what happened that day. I can tell you that Eastern Wilderness 002 told such a story back then. There's no adulteration or exaggeration at all. Also, let me remind you that this story is related to the poem just now and even to the Supreme Demon Venerable. Was it really true? Everyone was extremely surprised, and their curiosity was completely aroused. They immediately urged him, "Hurry up and tell us, what are you talking about?" This person was urged for a while, and after satisfying his vanity, he said, "Speaking of which, the Supreme Demon Venerable of the Eastern Wilderness is really a devoted lover. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't be able to do anything. I would have listened to my wife tell this story for more than 10 years, and I wouldn't even listen to it for half an hour." Immediately, this person explained the reason one by one. Hearing this, everyone present was amazed. They were even more in awe of the so-called Supreme Demon Venerable, and they could not help but admire him in their hearts. Such a scene kept happening in the streets and alleys of the Eastern continent. Because of the rumors, many of them had completely deviated from the truth. In some versions of the story, the Supreme Demon Lord even came back to life and returned to the Eastern Wilderness with the woman he loved, living a loving life again. As for Eastern Wilderness 002, because of his deviation, he was even more godly. It was said that there wasn't much of a difference between him and the Supreme Demon Lord. Therefore, the Supreme Demon Venerable had asked him to deal with the matters of the East Continent. If anyone in the East Continent dared to discriminate against the Eastern Wilderness, he would just kill them. Along with this kind of spread, what happened in the 7 Wheels Demon area had an incomparably far-reaching and unimaginable impact on the entire East Continent. The people from the East Continent and the Eastern Wilderness had a drastic change in attitude, but the ones who had the most say and felt it the most were not the people from the East Continent, but the people from the Eastern Wilderness. In the most remote and desolate villages, the villagers deeply felt this. Now, whenever they met people from the East Continent, they found that people from the East Continent no longer dared to insult them. Some people were even polite to them for fear of angering them. Therefore, the people in the villages were completely shocked. Women, children, old and young all knew about Eastern Wilderness 002. They knew that everything had changed because of this person. He had started a massacre in the Seven Wheels Demon area, showing the prestige of the people from the Eastern Wilderness and the dignity of the Eastern Wilderness. Do you think Eastern Wilderness 002 is the Chuyang who came to our village before? I heard that Eastern Wilderness 002 also has a bird on his shoulder. It might really be him. It should be. Think about it. Before Chuyang came to the East Continent from the Eastern Wilderness, what was the situation in the East Continent in the Eastern Wilderness? It was completely a pool of stagnant water. However, many big things happened as soon as he came. First, it was the Sky Court. For the first time, someone from our village successfully entered the Sky Court and gained a foothold in the Sky Court. We don't know how long the Seven Wheels Demon area has existed, but there hasn't been any movement. Why did such an earth-shattering thing happen in the Seven Wheels Demon area after Chuyang came to the East Continent? If it wasn't him, I don't think anyone from the Eastern Wilderness has this ability. Chapter 1170. Many people in the village speculated that Eastern Wilderness 002 was Chuyang. One reason was that Chuyang was very powerful. Another reason was that Chuyang and the parrot were a team of one man and one bird. Another reason was that Chuyang was a member of the Eastern Wilderness. If the other members of the Eastern Wilderness were so powerful, they would have gone crazy long ago. Why wait until Chuyang came to the East Continent? Of course, this was not impossible. It was just that the villagers were more inclined to believe the former. This was because Chuyang had stayed in the village before. To the villagers, this was a great honor. Because of this, most people in the village believed that Eastern Wilderness 002 was Chuyang. Not everyone was happy to hear about the situation at the abandoned village. At the very least, Uncle Hu had brought Chuyang back to the barren village, frowned when he saw this. Although he also hoped that Eastern Wilderness 002 was Chuyang, he could not bring himself to be happy. Uncle Hu forcibly interrupted the discussion and went to find Sixth Great Uncle. Before Uncle Hu could say anything, Sixth Great Uncle said, "Hu Zi, you came at the right time. I have something to ask of you." Uncle Hu realized that Sixth Great Uncle was very excited, but he was restraining himself. However, in his old eyes, there was a bright light that exposed his inner excitement. Sixth Uncle, is Chuyang Eastern Wilderness 002? Uncle Hu wanted to know for sure. No. Sixth Great Uncle's expression changed. It was as if he had changed his expression. He suddenly became extremely serious, and his gaze became extremely sharp. He stared at Uncle Hu and said, "Uncle Hu, this is the reason I am looking for you." After a pause, Sixth Great Uncle asked seriously, "Eastern Wilderness 002, Hu Zi, tell me, what does he represent?" Because of Sixth Great Uncle, Uncle Hu also became very serious. He thought for a while, then said, "Sixth Uncle, he is the hope of the Eastern Wilderness." Not hope. Sixth Great Uncle suddenly became very excited. His whole body was shaking. He looked at his old hands and said with great passion, "It's not just hope. He is the savior of all the desolates in the East Continent. Ever since the news of the Sky Court spread to the barren village, I've been vaguely certain of this. Now I no longer have any doubts." Sixth Great Uncle's face was already completely red. He wanted to shout out in excitement, but in the end, he restrained himself. What happened in the Seven Wheels demonic domain is the best proof. What the desolate man of the East Continent had failed to achieve even after generations of hard work, is happening now. And in the near future, in the entire East continent, I firmly believe that what our ancestors hoped for will come true. But there is a condition. Sixth great-uncle's excitement suddenly disappeared, and worry appeared in his eyes. He said anxiously and worriedly, "The premise is that he is not killed before he grows up. Huzi, do you understand what I'm trying to say?" How could Uncle Hu not understand? But he was also worried. Sixth great-uncle, if we force our way in, it's tantamount to telling the villagers that Eastern Wilderness 002 is Chuyang. It's basically a confession without being pressed. We still have to do it. We have to do it. Sixth great-uncle gritted his teeth and said with a fierce expression, "I will not allow the news of Eastern Wilderness 002 to leak out from our village. It will destroy the hope of our ancestors and the people of the Eastern Wilderness." Uncle Hu understood sixth great-uncle's feelings. How could he not think the same way? Then sixth great-uncle, what should I do? Sixth great-uncle suddenly said coldly, "Tell the villagers that Chuyang is Eastern Wilderness 002. Also tell them what Chuyang means to us, and what will happen to us if Chuyang dies. Also, from today onwards, only the people of the barren village who are absolutely trustworthy are allowed to contact the outside world. The rest are not allowed to leave our sight." Do we really have to go this far? Chapter 1171. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy. Sixth great-uncle gritted his teeth and said the last 3 words one by one, causing Uncle Hu to tremble. "Sixth uncle, shouldn't you reconsider?" "There's no need to reconsider," Sixth uncle said directly. "Huzi, just do it. I believe that no one in the village will oppose you if you tell them the importance of Eastern Wilderness 002. They will only support you." After hearing this, Uncle Hu thought for a moment. All of his worries disappeared. Yes, everyone in the barren village yearned for the respect of the East continent. Which one of them had not been humiliated before? How could they let their hopes be dashed by their own hands? He couldn't help but look at his empty, armless sleeve. Wasn't he the one? At this moment, countless memories involuntarily gushed out from Uncle Hu's mind. Scene after scene appeared in his mind. Until this moment, every scene was so vivid, so clear. It was as if everything had just happened yesterday. The deeper the humiliation, the more unforgettable it was, and the clearer the memories. He was once young. He once tried to rise above others, to make a name for himself, to climb to the top. He wanted to change the discrimination of the people of the Eastern Wilderness. He wanted to clear the name of the Eastern Wilderness. He wanted to bring honor to the people of the Eastern Wilderness. However, reality was cruel. In his memories, there were only setbacks, frustrations, unwillingness, shame, endless humiliation, and countless injuries. Just like this arm of his that was chopped off. He had done nothing wrong, but the people of the East continent chopped off his arm and fed it to the dogs just because he was from the Eastern Wilderness. He could never forget that scene. The hatred had never disappeared. It was hidden in the deepest part of his heart. He seemed to have forgotten about it, but every time he noticed it, he would discover that such hatred had become more and more intense, constantly burning his heart. If Chuyang really succeeds, maybe one day I can avenge my lost arm. Uncle Hu's heart leaped with hope, but he quickly realized that he was overthinking it. He shook his head. What was impossible about that? He immediately thought of that youth, the youth who had stayed in the Nirvana pond for dozens of days. Not much time had passed since then, but the young man had already created 2 miracles in succession. He was even changing the views of the people in the East continent and the Eastern Wilderness. It seems that I have to make up for the martial arts cultivation that I fell behind in the past. When he thought about his 6th great-uncle's order, he couldn't help but laugh. How could he possibly reveal the identity of Eastern Wilderness 002? Not even if he had to die. Perhaps the news would leak out from someone else, but that person would definitely not be him. He was not the only one who had been humiliated by the East Continent. His punishment was considered light. Those who had been humiliated even more by the East Continent would probably be harsher than him when they carried out their orders. Huzi, do you understand? Sixth great-uncle said faintly, let's not talk about the people of the Eastern Wilderness. Our barren village alone has too much hatred and resentment. Sixth uncle, I understand. It's good that you understand. Sixth great-uncle reminded him again, remember, this must be done quickly. Don't worry, sixth uncle. Uncle who promised. If the news of Eastern Wilderness 002 leaks out from the barren village, you don't have to come to me. I'll come to you myself. After Uncle Hu strode out of sixth great-uncle's yard, he couldn't help but look toward the Sky Institute. Chu Yang, I'm sorry. Not only did I let you fight alone, but I also erased all information about you. The barren village is the only thing I can do, but I hope you can do it. Chapter 1172. The explosive news of the Seven Wheels Demon Realm first impacted Seven Wheels City. In Seven Wheels City, the Li family was the one that was impacted the most. Seven Wheels City existed because of the Seven Wheels Demon Realm. It was also a place of exile. The people gathered in the city were either evil or evil people. There were very few good people. Naturally, this city was not very big. It was too dangerous to take advantage of the Seven Wheels Demon Realm. To be exact, Seven Wheels City was not a city. It was a town, Seven Wheels Town. The people of the Eastern Wilderness were not humans in the eyes of the people of the East Continent. Using the lives of the people of the Eastern Wilderness to investigate the Seven Wheels Demon Realm was very worthwhile. Therefore, many people of the Eastern Wilderness were captured and sold to Seven Wheels City. Bai Chenxing wanted to capture people of the Eastern Wilderness to threaten Chu Yang. Naturally, he had to be nearby. Wang Xinghuang and his wife's ancestors were sold here. However, Wang Xinghuang was very lucky. He met a good master, so he could get married and have children. However, the master would not offend the Seven Wheels City's Li family for him. The Seven Wheels City's Li family was one of the most powerful families. After the news of the Seven Wheels Demon Realm reached Seven Wheels City, there was a lot of discussion. However, there was one exception: the Li family. In the past, the Li family's gate was as crowded as a market. It was very lively and full of laughter. However, today it was deserted and even gloomy. Li family's main hall. At this moment, the important members of the Li family were all present. No one was missing. A young man of about 27 or 28 years old knelt in the middle of the main hall. He was only at the 7th level of the Chi Soul realm. He was thin and his eyes were sunken. His face was handsome, but there was little color. This was the second son of the Li family's master, Li Li. An old man with hawk-like eyebrows and tiger-like eyes sat on the main seat. He was imposing without being angry. Even though he was in his 50s or 60s, he still had an extremely fierce aura. This was the second master of the Li family. Li Long sat there boldly. There was a faint smell of flames coming out from his body. Any cultivator could tell that he had already taken half a step into Nirvana realm with just a glance. At this moment, what appeared on his body was the embryonic form of the Nirvana flame that was unique to the Nirvana stage. Other than that, there was also Nirvana force circulating in the air. In Seven Wheel City, a half-step Nirvana stage was absolutely considered a peak existence. The atmosphere in the Li family's main hall was oppressive and solemn. There was a faint smell of impending doom. Li where is that little sister Chow now? Li Long's words didn't seem to be words, but rather swords, sabers, and spears. When they entered Li Li's ears, Li Li's entire body trembled. Father, that bitch has gone crazy. I've locked her up in a dog cage. A dog cage? As soon as these two words were spoken, the Li family's main hall was like a person who was shocked to death, as if they had heard some terrible news, suddenly becoming extremely gloomy. Kaka. Lily felt all of this. His teeth chattered as he made a sound. It was clear how terrified he was. Father, I'm just humiliating a bitch like you. Is there a need for this? He knew what had happened, but he had to defend himself. Bitch! When the important members of the Lee family heard this, their faces instantly turned ugly. One of them immediately said, Master, it seems that our Lee family is doomed this time. If little sister Chow has gone crazy, then according to what Eastern Wilderness 002 said, our Lee family will probably be exterminated. This time, our Lee family might really walk through the gates of hell. Chapter 1173. A manager trembled as he stood up. Second Master, it's me. But, he wanted to say something else, but he shut his mouth. Bastard. The enraged person just now was the Lee clan's second master. At this time, he suddenly moved and appeared in front of the manager with a swoosh, wanting to twist the manager's head off. With a plop, the manager knelt down. Second master, who knew that this wild dog would suddenly become so powerful? The Stardow Academy had to curry favor with him. Bang! The Lee clan's second master suppressed his killing intent and kicked the manager until he fainted. He never would have thought that if he had to blame someone, he could only blame his Lee clan's bad luck for this calamity. No matter what, I don't care what method I use, you must cure Sister Chow. Li Long spoke. Before tomorrow, she can't be a lunatic. Big brother, it's just a wild dog. Don't tell me we don't have a way to deal with it? The Lee clan's second master was unwilling. Let's think of the worst-case scenario. Within Li Long's sharp old eyes, an incomparably intimidating light suddenly burst forth, as if a demon had been awakened. If the time comes, I would like to see what kind of ability that wild dog has to destroy my Lee family. The Lee clan was able to establish themselves in Seven Wheel City among a group of vicious people. At the very least, they had to be more vicious than others. Clearly, the Lee clan was able to achieve this. What if he wants Li Er's life? Hearing this, Li Long's eyes narrowed. After thinking for a while, he coldly said, My Lee clan's disciples are only toying with a female dog. Their crime doesn't warrant death. If the wild dog dares to cross the line, then we won't rest until we're dead. After a pause, his eyes shone with a greedy light. If we can defeat the wild dog, our reputation will soar. Even the 6 great academies will view our Lee clan in a new light. Therefore, this is a crisis for the Lee clan, but it's also a great crisis. Master, Sky Sword Academy's young master Feng Polong has already barged in. At this moment, a servant of the Lee clan came to report in a panic. What? Everyone from the Lee family was shocked, but in a flash, Li Long opened his mouth and said, Quickly go greet young Master Feng. No need. A clear and cold voice sounded from the outside. Just as the voice entered their ears, the eyes of the Lee family members suddenly saw a figure that was as handsome as jade. His body was as straight as a divine sword that pierced the heavens. His body was like a sword, and his gaze was even more so. What terrifying speed! Li Long was shocked. Just as he heard the sound, the person had already arrived. After he sensed a strong sense of danger from Feng Polong, he immediately became humble. This old man never thought that young Master Feng would grace us with his presence. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Please redeem me. Feng Polong couldn't be bothered to listen to him. He cut him off like a sword. You're the head of the Lee family. I'm here because I promised Eastern Wilderness 002. Now let me officially convey the words of Eastern Wilderness 002. After a pause, he continued, If a single hair on that woman's head is touched, your entire Lee clan will be annihilated. 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 Everyone from the Lee clan was shocked. Li Long's eyes narrowed. He cupped his hands and said, Young Master Feng, it's just a wild dog. Is he that capable? Wild dog. Feng Polong suddenly laughed coldly. I don't even dare to say those two words now. You guys really don't know what you're talking about. Xiao. Chapter 1174. His. At this moment, everyone in the hall sucked in a breath of cold air. They saw a clear line of blood on the right side of Li Long's neck. If Feng Polong had wanted to kill, Li Long would have been a dead man by now. However, Feng Polong was only at the 6th level of the soul amalgamation realm, but he was already so terrifying. Li Long touched his neck and looked at the blood on his hand. His pupils shrank and he felt fear in his heart. Although he was at the half-step nirvana realm, his foundation was not as solid as the disciples of the 6 great academies. In front of a genius like Feng Polong, he was even more lacking. However, even a genius like Feng Polong did not dare to say the words, wild dog. In an instant, Li Long's opinion of the wild dog changed. The ruthlessness on his face disappeared and was replaced by worry. He was ruthless, evil, and vicious, but in front of absolute strength, it was useless. Even if he risked his life, it would be futile. The first order is to make sure that Chao Xiaomei is clean and clean. She must not look miserable. If possible, make sure that she does not go crazy. The second order is to kill Lier. Although you were not wrong this time, there is no other way. You can only die. Caw. Li Long's teeth were still chattering, but he suddenly gritted his teeth and said, Father, I understand. You once told me that if I can't become a powerhouse, then I should enjoy my current life and die like a dog one day. This is a world where the strong preys on the weak. Then, he slowly stabilized his body and said, Although I don't want to die and haven't enjoyed enough, I know what to do. However, Father, if there is a chance, I hope that you can kill 100 wild dog and bury them with me. Good. Li Long said, as expected of my son. Although he is trash, he is not stupid. However, your request is too low. How can 100 wild dog be worth your life? Big brother. Suddenly, the second master of the Li family said, Don't you have a son? Let him pay with his life. Li Long's eyes suddenly narrowed. He did have a despicable son who was born to him after he amused himself with a female dog in the eastern wilderness. He didn't like him very much. He had always hoped that this lowly son of his would die, but this lowly son of his had stubbornly survived. I'm afraid I won't be able to fool Wild Dog. Even if I change my appearance, I'm afraid it won't work. Big brother, there's no need to change your appearance. The second master of the Li family sneered. Wild Dog doesn't recognize Li, so he definitely won't be so meticulous. If we bow and scrape, I'm afraid he'll just kill us and leave. If he doesn't want to let us go, then even killing Li is useless. We can only fight him to the death. Second master, what you said makes sense. Among the main members of the Li family, someone agreed with this idea. Wild Dog and Wang Xinghuang don't have much of a relationship. They only interacted because of the star child of the Great Star Academy. Moreover, it's not Eastern Wilderness 002 who came personally, so it should be easy for us to trick him. That's right. It's not Eastern Wilderness 002 who came, but other Wild Dog. They came to do things for Eastern Wilderness 002, so they probably wouldn't think so much. Moreover, they wouldn't expect us to be so bold as to trick them. Li Long's eyes flickered. He had this intention from the beginning. So what if they bullied Wild Dog? Why not? Wild Dog probably didn't realize that he was being tricked as a fool. He might even be proud of himself, but how would he know that he had killed half a wild dog? That's right, Li Long admitted in his heart. He really did treat Wild Dog as a fool. As long as he succeeded, it would be easy to deal with the aftermath. He could seal the news and have his son change his appearance. Who would know? He quickly came to a decision. Li, go hide immediately. Don't let too many people know. Also, call that lowly son of mine here. If he doesn't agree, I'll kill that lowly bitch. Li quickly left secretly. Just as Li Long and the others were discussing how to deal with Wild Dog, a voice floated in from outside the door. I'm Eastern Wilderness 008. This person was very handsome. He held a folding fan in his hand and had a frivolous expression on his face. He appeared like a ghost, scaring the members of the Li family. But they saw this person flippantly open his folding fan and gently wave it. Then he smiled wickedly. Since you know that I'm Eastern Wilderness 008, you should know why I'm here. Do you choose to be more active or more passive? Many young masters knew how to smile wickedly, but this Eastern Wilderness 008's smile and his playfulness seemed to be a bit special. It was hard to describe what it was for a moment. At first, Li Long couldn't describe it, but he quickly understood. Killing intent. Eastern Wilderness 001, Eastern Wilderness 002, and so on were all the same person. There definitely weren't many people who would call themselves Eastern Wilderness 008. There was one person who was very likely to be this person because this Eastern Wilderness 008 was all stirred up by him. Chapter 1175. Who else could it be if it wasn't Chu Yang? If one searched the entire East continent, they wouldn't be able to find the so-called Eastern Wilderness 008, except for Chu Yang. The seven-wheel demon domain had sunk and allowed the supreme demon ancestor to rest in peace. However, how could Chu Yang be buried together with him? Of course, he had a way to come out. The key to everything was the demonic bell. The demonic bell's chaotic consciousness had completely recognized Chu Yang and recognized him as its master. The reason for this was naturally because of the seven soul origins of the two supreme demon ancestors. Therefore, Chu Yang could use the demonic bell to teleport him out. However, the demonic bell wasn't something that he could control right now. Moreover, it was still in the process of self-recovery, so he couldn't bring it out. This time, Chu Yang's harvest was extremely great. Furthermore, his improvement was extremely fast. In less than a month, he had reached the 8th level of the spirit stage. If he wanted to, he could break through to the 9th level of the spirit stage, or even the soul fusion realm at any time. However, he wasn't impatient and wanted to polish himself. Chu Yang had also grasped two divine abilities: the Divine and Demon Twins and the Creation Divine ability. These two divine abilities were extremely powerful, especially the Divine and Demon Twins. The Divine and Demon Doppelganger's realm was even higher than his original body. However, it was a pity that the Divine and Demon Doppelganger was born because of him. Although its realm was higher than his, its physical strength was on par with his original body. Otherwise, with just the Divine and Demon Doppelganger, he could easily defeat a Law Phase realm expert. With every increase in the spirit stage, Chu Yang's physical strength would increase by 1,000 dragon's power. Currently, he was at the 8th level of the spirit stage and possessed 8,200 dragon's power. With the 9 transformations, he possessed 90,000 dragon's power. With such strength, killing an ordinary 9th-level soul fusion realm expert would be as easy as raising his hand. Due to the birth of the 7-soul world, his current domain was even more powerful and firm than the original overlay array. If his deduction wasn't wrong, even a Law Phase realm expert wouldn't be able to destroy his current domain. As for the limits of his current combat strength, Chu Yang wasn't sure either. He had to go through a fierce battle with a strong opponent before he could clearly confirm it. Chu Yang did not stay for long after the Supreme Demon Exalt was buried. He only briefly comprehended his body, not even having the time to check the space rings of Bei Qinxing and Li Xingsan. Both of their spatial rings were extremely astonishing. It was almost like an extremely small plane. There was absolutely no problem for them to store living things inside. Furthermore, not only were there all kinds of treasures, cultivation methods, and rare treasures that the two of them had collected, there were also quite a few spirit veins. The spirit stones from the eastern wilderness were not even considered stones in the East Continent. Only spirit stones in the East Continent were spirit stones. However, people at the level of Beiqingxing and Li Xingsan did not care about spirit stones at all. They were only interested in spirit veins. Chu Yang gave Beiqingxing's spatial spirit ring to Wang Bushang. This was a cultivation resource for Wang Bushang when he was not around. Naturally, he couldn't bring Wang Bushang along, but he had already made arrangements. Chu Yang stored Wang Bushang into the spatial ring. After he was teleported out, he met up with the parrot outside the seven-wheel demon city. The parrot rushed to the desolate village at its fastest speed. Chu Yang used the demonic god walk art to change his appearance and appeared in the seven-wheel city's Li family. As soon as he appeared, everyone in the Li family noticed that he was only at the 8th level of the spirit realm. Their eyes flickered and they had the urge to immediately kill him. Li Long was also the same. You're only at the 8th level of the spirit realm, yet you dare to come to the Li family and say that you'll kill everyone in the Li family. Chapter 1176. There must be a reason behind this abnormality. A mere spirit stage 8th level is most likely here to test our Li family. He probably has a backup plan. As Li Long's thoughts flashed through his mind, he immediately took the lead and knelt down towards Chu Yang. I am Li Long. Greetings to Eastern Wilderness 008. Greetings to Eastern Wilderness 008. Everyone in the Li family followed Li Long's lead and knelt down as they shouted in unison. Pa. Chu Yang closed his fan and nodded with a smile. Your Li family's current attitude is pretty good. I hope that you can continue to work hard. At least for now, Chu Yang was satisfied with the Li family's reaction. Li family, you bastards. You know how to be afraid after seeing my Uncle Chu. Within the interspatial ring, Wang Bushang's eyes were about to split open. If it wasn't for the Li family, his family wouldn't have been separated, and he and his father wouldn't have been sent to the seven-wheel demon realm. Eastern Wilderness 008, please rest assured. My Li family will definitely turn over a new leaf. Please, Eastern Wilderness 008, give the Li family a chance to turn over a new leaf. Li Long's heart was filled with viciousness and viciousness. His words and actions were extremely humble. I only look at your actions, not your words, Chu Yang sneered. Let me ask you, where is Chao Xiaomei right now? Bring her out to see me. Yes. Eastern Wilderness 008, please wait a moment. But just as Li Long finished speaking, Chu Yang's expression suddenly changed. His divine senses were very sharp. Swish! Chu Yang's figure moved, and he immediately flew towards the northern courtyard of the Li clan, causing the gazes of the Li clan's people to become extremely fierce. The direction that Chu Yang was flying towards was actually the courtyard where Li Li was staying, and also where Chao Xiaomei was being held captive. Later, Eastern Wilderness 008 would probably be enraged, and their Li family would have to bear the brunt of his anger. Li Long and the Li family's second master signaled with their eyes. If it wasn't possible, then they would immediately take action. The second master of the Li family nodded. Then, everyone followed Li Long and flew away. After a short flight, Chu Yang stopped and stood in front of a dog cage. The dog cage was less than half a meter tall, and there was a woman in it. Her hair was disheveled and her body was dirty. She even emitted a foul smell. The woman was curled up in the cage, and she could barely move. He couldn't see the woman's face clearly because it was too dirty and dark. Her eyes were chaotic and crazy. Sometimes she was crying, and sometimes she was shouting something. Her words were chaotic and indistinct. Her syllables were no longer the syllables of a human, but those of a beast. Chu Yang could faintly make out many intermittent words. Come and save me, Xing Huang, little treasure, my baby shell. In addition to these, Chu Yang also vaguely heard the anger and extreme fear in her voice. When the woman in the dog cage suddenly noticed Chu Yang, she shrank back into the dog cage. The dog cage was really too small, and there was no space for her to escape or hide. But she was forced to shrink into a corner, leaving a lot of space. Then she suddenly became extremely fierce, like a mad dog, a wild beast, and bared her teeth at Chu Yang. Chu Yang's pupils suddenly shrank. What kind of humiliation and terror did she have to go through to become like this? There was no doubt that the woman in the dog cage was Wang Bushang's mother, Chao Xiaomei. Mother. In the space ring, Wang Bushang had already let out a heart-wrenching scream, which was transmitted to Chu Yang's heart. Suddenly, he felt an intense stab of pain. Li Long and the others all arrived, and they all knelt down in unison. Eastern Wilderness 008, please forgive us. We didn't know the name of the Eastern Wilderness before, so we let our unfilial son commit such a sin. The Li family is guilty. Li Long was straightforward and admitted it. But what could he do even if he didn't admit it? Maybe he could get some forgiveness by begging for mercy. Chu Yang didn't know how to write the words forgive or forgive now. But he didn't reveal his killing intent. Chapter 1177. There was no trace of anger in his smiling face, nor was there any warmth in his tone. Li Long's pupils suddenly shook. Li Long clearly realized that this was not an ordinary anger. This was the wrath of the heavens that could burn a vast ocean of water, extreme anger. Damn wild dog, how dare you be so presumptuous in front of me, Li Long. If I see through your trump card, the next mad dog to be locked in the dog cage will be you, and my Li family will use this opportunity to become famous. Although Li Long thought so in his heart, his face showed incomparable fear. He did not dare to beg for mercy, but he roared, "What are you waiting for? Bring that evil beast here." Chu Yang spoke again, "Bring me a stool while you're at it." These words made the Li family members secretly angry. Wild dog, do you really think you're invincible? How dare you act like a tyrant in my Li family and do whatever you want? Chu Yang did not care what they thought. What he was considering now was whether to turn them into mad dogs or dead people. At the same time, he had already released Chao Xiaomei from the dog cage. Gurgle, when Chao Xiaomei found that the dog cage was opened, she immediately roared like a wild beast to threaten Chu Yang. However, she did not dare to come out of the dog cage at all. There was fear in her eyes, as if her time of suffering had come to an end. Bastard, what kind of beast can destroy a woman like this? Chu Yang jumped, a burst of evil fire in his heart rushed straight to his head. Good girl, don't be afraid, I'm the one who's here to save you. He tried his best to be gentle, then reached out his hand to Chao Xiaomei's head. In an instant, Chao Xiaomei was like a mad dog, baring her teeth and biting madly. However, Chu Yang's hand emitted a soft light. This light was like a ball of cotton wool, incomparably soft, but also incomparably tough. Chao Xiaomei bit fiercely, as if she was biting a real thing. Uncle Chu, you have to save my mother. Wang Bushang looked at his usually gentle and virtuous mother, who was now like a mad dog, like a wild beast. His heart was filled with grief, and 2 streams of tears flowed down his face endlessly like 2 small rivers. Be good, don't cry. All the sufferings will pass. Uncle should be able to cure your mother. After that, Chu Yang placed his hand on Chao Xiaomei's forehead. Immediately, a great amount of light energy erupted and poured into Chao Xiaomei's spiritual world. As soon as he entered Chao Xiaomei's spiritual world, he felt endless despair and endless terror. There was not a single trace of light in her spiritual world, only endless darkness, endless darkness. His spiritual power entered it, and it was like a huge sun in the universe, emitting endless light. Not long after, he saw a pair of eyes in the depths of Chao Xiaomei's consciousness. They were incomparably scarlet, and the light within them was extremely chaotic. Sigh. Chu Yang let out a long sigh, which resounded in Chao Xiaomei's spiritual world. Perhaps I can adjust your soul back, but you can only rely on yourself to endure the sufferings you've experienced before. Chu Yang had the reincarnation gourd, and he was proficient in 3 secret techniques: soul slaying, soul devouring, and soul detention. He was also good at the soul snatching technique, which allowed him to easily control the souls of others. Moreover, he often analyzed the souls of his enemies and seized the secret techniques in their memories. It could be said that few people could match his attainments in the field of souls. However, he did not have absolute confidence in completely adjusting Chao Xiaomei's chaotic soul and restoring her to normal. The soul was too mysterious, and no one could fully understand it. Otherwise, Chu Yang would not have been able to break through to the soul amalgamation realm at will, but a higher realm. As for the repair of the soul, it was even more difficult. Chu Yang was good at destruction, but it was much easier to destroy the soul than to repair it. For example, it was easy to break a piece of porcelain, but it was extremely difficult to put it back together. Chapter 1178. Time passed silently. Li Long and the rest of the Li family knelt on the ground. The so-called unfilial son had already been brought over. The unfilial son was dressed in luxurious clothes, but his body was thin and weak. He seemed to be malnourished. At this moment, his eyes were looking at Chu Yang. His eyes flickered and there was a faint hope in his despair. His gaze would occasionally fall on the woman who was covered in filth and was emitting a foul smell. He thought to himself, "You've been saved, but what about me? What about my mother?" The so-called unfilial son was naturally not Li Li, who was kneeling in the Li family's main hall. Instead, it was Li Long's other son, Li Yi, who was half Eastern Wilderness. Li Yi originally did not have a name. Everyone in the Li family called him lowly bastard. Later on, his name became Li Yi. His mother called him Yer, but when the Li family was present, they had no choice but to call him bastard. At this moment, Chu Yang had already lowered his eyes. This action caused Li Long and the others to become restless. They all felt that this was an extremely good opportunity, but none of them made a move. This was because they did not need to make a sneak attack. Chu Yang was only at the 8th level of the spirit stage. Moreover, he was only at the 8th level of the spirit stage. If Li Long wanted to kill such a wild dog, why would he need to make a sneak attack? What the Li family was uncertain about was Chu Yang's backing. The wild dog, and he, dared to act so presumptuously with such a weak cultivation? They were afraid that there was another wild dog hiding in the dark. Therefore, they were desperately searching and searching. However, even after searching a few times, they still found nothing. Perhaps there was no one. However, Li Long was cautious and continued to search. He was still trying his best to restrain himself. The reason why he was able to gain a foothold in the Seven-Wheel City was because of his ruthlessness and viciousness. However, the most important reason was his cautiousness. There were many people who were ruthless, viciousness. However, there were very few people who were able to think thoroughly, calculate, and make a move after making sure that they were confident. Li Long was one of these people in the Seven-Wheel City. At the very least, he realized that his decision was absolutely correct. When Chu Yang's hand landed on Chao Xiaomei's forehead, he clearly noticed that Chao Xiaomei's gaze had softened. She was no longer like a mad dog. Then, it became even more shocking. The fear and confusion in Chao Xiaomei's eyes quickly disappeared. She seemed to have obtained great relief, great freedom, and great bliss, and her expression became more serene. After a while, Li Long noticed that Chao Xiaomei's eyes had become clear again. There was a mixture of gratitude, fear, shame, and many other complicated emotions in her eyes. Not good. Li Long's heart skipped a beat. If Chao Xiaomei woke up and he replaced his other son Li Li with his own despicable son, his plan would be exposed. He was about to kill Chu Yang. But then, he suddenly thought of Chu Yang's amazing means. He had managed to tidy up Chao Xiaomei's divine soul. It was very amazing. So, he couldn't help but hesitate for a while. At this moment, Li Long was extremely afraid of the so-called Eastern Wilderness 008 in front of him. Li Long knew that he didn't have the ability to tidy up another person's spirit and turn a madman back to normal. Therefore, this made him even more certain that the wild dog in front of him was definitely not as simple as it looked on the surface. However, if his plan was exposed, it would be irreversible. At this moment, he could only grit his teeth and decide to go all out. Chapter 1179. Go to sleep, have a good sleep, and the nightmare will pass. Chu Yang's voice seemed to have a magical power. Chao Xiaomei suddenly became extremely tired. As soon as her eyelids drooped, she fell into a deep sleep. He hugged Chao Xiaomei and said, "Come, take her away and wash her carefully." After a pause, he looked at Li Long and said, "You should understand what I mean, right? Eastern Wilderness 008, our Li family will definitely atone for our sins and take good care of her." Li Long saw that Chao Xiaomei had fallen asleep and was overjoyed in his heart. Then, he said respectfully. Chu Yang ignored him and suddenly smiled again. He looked at Li Yi, who was kneeling on the side. His smile immediately made Li Yi shiver. A chill ran down his spine, and he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Although Chao Xiaomei's matter had nothing to do with him, Li Yi felt incomparable fear at this moment. That kind of smile was perhaps the most terrifying smile he had ever seen in his life. He almost wanted to shout out loud and say that he was not Li Li, but when his mother's face appeared in his mind, everything came to an abrupt stop. His fear came to an abrupt end. At this time, Li Long and the other members of the Li family all sneered in their hearts. Even if Eastern Wilderness 008, this wild dog is extraordinary, so what? He will still be completely played by us, and become a butcher knife in our hands, killing people for us. Wild dog, you killed the lowly bastard, and our Li family will be clean. Even if the Li family members restrained themselves, many of them still showed a sneer on their faces. However, they were kneeling on the ground with their faces facing down, and all of this was well hidden. The eyes are the window to the soul. Chu Yang initially saw endless fear in Li Ye's eyes, but in the end, he found that the other party's fear disappeared and was replaced by despair, anger, and unwillingness. Is he angry because the Li family captured him and sent him to die? Is he desperate because he knows that he will die when facing me? But what about his unwillingness? Who cares what he thinks? I'll either drive him crazy or kill him. Chu Yang was still hesitating whether to drive this thing crazy or kill it, so he was not in a hurry to make a move. As if he was interrogating a criminal, he laughed strangely and asked, "Name?" "Li Li." After saying these two words, Li Li's heart sank. If Eastern Wilderness 008 killed him, he couldn't blame Eastern Wilderness 008. If he wanted to blame someone, he could only blame the Li family and the trash of the Li family. Chu Yang had already entered the trial process, but he suddenly heard Wang Bushang's angry shout from within the spatial ring. "Uncle Chu, isn't this the bastard who stole my mother?" In fact, Wang Bushang had long realized that Li Yi was not Li Li. Even if his enemy was reduced to ashes, he could still recognize him. It hadn't made a sound just now because of the parrot's previous education. "Little Wang Wang, you're really embarrassing your Uncle Chu King by crying like this, and you're embarrassing your Uncle Divine Bird even more. Your Uncle Chu Hang and your Uncle Divine Bird dug holes for everyone in the world. Why did they meet a scammer like you who only knows how to cry and not scam people? Uncle Chu is very good at scamming people." Wang Bushang worshipped Chu Yang very much. After hearing the parrot's words, he suddenly stopped crying. "Tsk," the parrot said disdainfully. "Your Uncle Chu is not only good at scamming people, he's simply a scammer with no morals. Uncle Chu is not a scammer. Uncle Parrot, you're talking nonsense. Wang Bushang's anger made the parrot feel very embarrassed. It immediately flapped its wings and lectured Wang Bushang. Scammer is the level of scammer, understand? Your Uncle Divine Bird is praising your Uncle Chu. Chapter 1180. Really? Wang Bushang's naivety and innocence made the parrot choke. But it thought that it would be wonderful if it could cheat Chu Yang. So it went against its conscience and harmed a young soul, giving wrong guidance and an extremely positive answer. So Wang Bushang kept this matter in mind. So when he saw someone pretending to be his enemy, he didn't say anything at first. He thought to himself, if I can dig a hole for Uncle Chu, Uncle Parrot said that Uncle Chu will be very happy. So Wang Bushang immediately thought of starting from here. But he suddenly thought that if he pretended to be his enemy, it was very likely that he was an enemy of the Li family. According to Uncle Parrot, the enemy of an enemy was his friend. Of course he couldn't harm his friend. After all, this was a human life. So he only spoke at this time. As soon as he spoke, Chu Yang's heart skipped a beat. Then he realized that he had been fooled. Then he almost broke out in a cold sweat. He was just about to kill this evil creature. Didn't he kill the wrong person? He was furious. Damn it, even at this time you still want to tease your Grandpa Chu. I'm very sure that I'll kill half of you, drive the other half crazy, and lock them all in the dog cage. If Chu Yang knew that the parrot was educated by Wang Bushang, he would definitely pluck all its feathers and hang it in the birdcage. 20. Li Yi shouted again, even more desperate, and at this time, he found that Eastern Wilderness 008 suddenly laughed sinisterly. Then he heard Eastern Wilderness 008 say to his bastard father, "Come here." Li Long got up. He didn't know what was going on, so he could only go over. Chu Yang said again, "Come closer." Li Long was stunned again. He didn't understand Chu Yang's meaning at all, but he endured it and continued to go over. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain on his face. He clearly felt that his facial bones were broken. Slap. Chu Yang furiously slapped Li Long's face. As the broken bones flew out of Li Long's face, Chu Yang's angry roar resounded in his ears. "Old bastard, what kind of beast did you teach? He actually tortured someone into a madman." Li Long was originally extremely humiliated and was about to attack in a fit of rage, but when he heard this, he forcefully restrained himself. It was the father's fault for not teaching the child well, so it was normal for him to be angry. Good, good, good. Finally, someone has smashed this old bastard's face. Li Yi looked at Li Long's face, which was badly mutilated. Blood was gushing out from the holes on his face, and he felt extremely satisfied. It was as if he had personally killed his father's enemy. "You are right, young master. It is indeed my fault for giving birth to such an evil creature." Li Long's humiliation and compromise made Li Yi feel even more contented. But Chu Yang raised his hand and smashed the other side of Li Long's face. "You still have the guts to say that?" At this moment, Li Long gritted his teeth and clenched his fists, almost unable to restrain the rage in his heart. However, he was so furious that he almost lost his mind at this moment. Suddenly, he saw Chu Yang move like a bolt of lightning. Then, he felt a burst of incomparably intense pain, and his body suddenly stiffened. Gurgle, a gurgle. Li Long's throat made a strange sound, and blood gushed out of his mouth. When he lowered his head, he saw that Chu Yang's spirit energy had transformed into a sword, and it had already pierced through his heart. He looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. You, Chu Yang sneered. "You're very surprised, right?" At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. Everyone in the Li family looked at this scene with incomparable astonishment. Chu Yang was madly slapping Li Long, their family head, to vent his anger. Although they were angry and humiliated, everything was going according to their plan. However, none of them expected that Chu Yang would suddenly kill them. They were caught off guard, and they never expected that. Chu Yang sneered. Old dog, continue to be surprised then. Since you want to play dirty, I will play you to death. He pulled out his sword and sent Li Long flying with a kick. In the end, he did not give an explanation, leaving Li Long with a grievance. Ah! Chapter 1181. Chu Yang slightly activated his devil martial spirit. That strange power was like a servant meeting its master, immediately submitting and silently retreating. At the same time, he saw that Li, who was originally kneeling on the ground, had already arrived in front of Li Long. Two tentacles emerged from his palms and pierced into Li Long's body with a swoosh, crazily sucking. Li Long's body shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he had become a dried corpse. Dong, dong, dong. Behind Li, there was a blood-red color. Dense spiritual qi condensed into a blood cloud. A strange monster suddenly appeared. Its entire body was blood-red, as if it had just been fished out of a pool of blood. Blood was flowing on its body. This monster's appearance was like a giant heart, thumping. It was also like a giant octopus, waving many tentacles. It was extremely strange. Just now, it was this monster formed from spiritual qi that had sucked Li Long, who had just been killed by Chu Yang, into a dried corpse. This scene was eerie and strange, causing people to tremble. Everyone in the Li family froze on the spot and were extremely terrified. Compared to Chu Yang killing Li Long, the scene in front of them made them even more terrified. Even Chu Yang's pupils could not help but shrink slightly. This Li in front of him clearly had a devil martial spirit. If his deduction was correct, it should be the blood devil martial spirit. Hee bastards, you are afraid! Li laughed sinisterly like a devil. He stretched out his hand and gently stroked the tentacles as if he was stroking his beloved woman. He said softly, "Buddy, you have been wronged. You have been sealed by that old bastard for so long. However, thanks to our benefactor, you have finally reappeared in this world." The tentacles were responding like a puppy licking Li's face. Li could not help but laugh. Amidst the unbridled laughter, Li rose from the origin martial realm to the transcendence realm at a visible speed. This is truly shocking. Did he directly advance to the transcendence stage after swallowing the blood of a half-step to nirvana stage? Chu Yang was a little shocked. In front of the blood demon martial spirit, no matter if it was a demonic beast or a cultivator, they would all become nourishment. After absorbing their cultivation and blood, the blood demon martial spirit's cultivation would continuously soar. Li stuck out his scarlet tongue and licked his lip. Facing the people of the Li family, he revealed his snow-white teeth and laughed strangely. "Trash, I can feel the thirst of my baby. All of you will become its nourishment." Eastern Wilderness 008, are you going to release a demon to bring disaster to the East Continent and plunge the East Continent into misery and suffering? Everyone in the Li family was incomparably terrified. The Li family's second master even roared at Chu Yang. He actually counted on Chu Yang to deal with such a monster. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. "So what? What does the East Continent have to do with me?" he sneered. These people of the Li family were all capable people. He had just killed Li Long, and now they actually wanted him to subdue a demon. Ha ha! This Li even laughed out loud. "Trash, you're actually counting on your benefactor to save you? Don't you know how angry he was when you turned Xiao Xiaomei into something neither human nor ghost?" With that, he knelt down in front of Chu Yang. "Benefactor, there is no need for you to dirty your hands by killing these trash. Let me do it for you. You lowly bastard, your foundation is extremely shallow to reach the transcendence realm. Do you think you will be our chi? Without any warning, tentacles suddenly shot out from the ground. Like spears, they pierced through the Li family members from the bottom and emerged from the top of their heads. Chapter 1182. Bang, bang, bang. The main members of the Li family were all dead. The servants of the Li family trembled in fear and fell to the ground one by one. Very scheming. Chu Yang was also surprised by this move because he had to be on guard against this. Li. Arrest. He secretly attacked one of the servants of the Li family and took back his soul. He immediately understood the identity of this Li Yi, son of Li Long, half-Eastern wilderness blood. Chu Yang looked through the servant's memories and found that this person could be killed, so he directly crushed his soul. Benefactor, good move. At this time, Li Ye's blood was surging and his eyes were faintly scarlet. He said in admiration, I have the blood demon martial soul, but compared to Benefactor, I am inferior. Li Yi was temporarily awake, but he didn't know what would happen next. He was afraid that he would completely turn into a murderous maniac. Name? Chu Yang asked and then sighed in his heart. A son swallowing the blood essence of his father, no matter what, this was a kind of tragedy. I have maternal instincts. My mother's surname is also Li. My name is Li Yi. Li Yi was grateful to Chu Yang, but at the same time, he was incomparably respectful. His blood demon martial soul was obviously very afraid when facing Chu Yang, and this was also the reason why he could still stay awake. You should know that he is your father. This is an undeniable fact. Why did you do such a thing? He is just a piece of trash. Li Yi gnashed his teeth and the scarlet in his eyes became more intense. Chu Yang couldn't say anything more. From the Li family servant's soul, he roughly knew what kind of situation Li Yi was in the Li family. A father to a son to such a degree. Come here. He waved at Li Yi, and Li Yi could only do as he was told. Slap. Chu Yang suddenly slapped Li Ye's face fiercely, causing him to turn away. Immediately, Li Ye's eyes shone with a fierce light, but this person was Chu Yang. He immediately revealed a look of fear and his violent rage immediately calmed down. Li Yi, if your mother were to see your current state, what would she think? Tell me. Hearing this, Li Ye's entire body trembled and he lowered his head. Let me ask you again, what is a demon? Li Ye's eyes revealed a look of confusion when he heard Chu Yang's voice, and wondered what Chu Yang meant. You can degrade yourself, but please don't degrade a demon. Chu Yang said coldly, the demon in my heart isn't a lunatic, nor is it a murderous demon. If I find you one day, I'll kill you by my hands, remember this. He was the one who released Li Ye's demon, so he was responsible for it. If Li Yi really became a murderous demon that only knew how to kill, then he had the obligation to end it. Chu Yang thought for a while and felt that it was better to be safe than sorry. He reached out his hand and touched Li Ye's forehead. Don't say that I didn't tell you what a demon is. This is my understanding. When he passed on his understanding of the demon to Li Yi, he also imprinted a trace of his imprint into Li Ye's blood demon martial spirit. The blood demon martial spirit didn't dare to resist. It trembled like a servant as it accepted its master's kindness. Little thing, I hope you can follow my glory. Upon hearing Chu Yang's voice, Li Yi could only see his own blood demon martial spirit in the deepest part of Chu Yang's consciousness sincerely kowtowing. The original fear had completely turned into loyalty, and even more so, it shone with infinite glory. Chapter 1183. This, Li Yi was incomparably shocked. He couldn't completely control the blood demon martial spirit, but in front of Chu Yang, the blood demon martial spirit was so humble. At this moment, he felt that even if Chu Yang asked the blood demon martial soul to devour its master, the blood demon martial soul would not hesitate at all. Therefore, when Li Yi looked at Chu Yang, his benefactor, he suddenly felt that the benefactor in front of him was incomparably tall and imposing. He was like a celestial being, a supreme existence that he could not touch at all. He had just received guidance, which was an unprecedented good fortune. Thank you, benefactor. Li Yi knelt down deeply and lowered his head. He did not dare to show any disrespect or presumptuousness. You don't have to do this. This is what I should do. After Chu Yang finished speaking, he looked at the servants of the Li family present and said to Li Yi, there may be good people among them. Don't kill them all. Benefactor. Li Yi suddenly raised his head and immediately said in a ferocious voice, there is no good person in the Li family. Their hands are stained with the blood of the people of the eastern wilderness. Don't be so extreme. Chu Yang scolded. I just told you not to humiliate yourself and not to tarnish the devil. You should not be blinded by hatred. I believe that your mother would not want you to be like this. Thank you, benefactor. Suddenly, a beautiful woman screamed loudly. Before the woman came close, she had already knelt down in front of Chu Yang and crawled all the way. Chu Yang was startled. How could he accept such a grand gesture? He hurriedly moved his body and arrived in front of the woman. He forcibly helped her up. Auntie, what are you doing? I can't accept such a grand gesture from you. I can accept it, I can accept it. The woman's snot and tears flowed down her face as she said, Benefactor, when you were teaching I heard everything. Benefactor's great kindness, this lowly woman is grateful to the point of shedding tears. I am unable to repay you, but I beg benefactor to restrain his demonic nature. Don't let him turn into a demon. This woman clearly knew that Li Yi possessed the blood demon martial spirit and was extremely anxious. Truly, the hearts of parents in the world were pitiful. The woman was about to kneel again, but Chu Yang could only stop her. Auntie, I'm also from the eastern wilderness. People from the eastern wilderness aren't cheap, and don't call yourself that. If you continue to act like this, my father will definitely whip me if he finds out. After a while, Chu Yang finally stopped Li Ye's mother and said, Auntie, you don't have to worry about the things here. Let's go back first. At the same time, he said to Li Yi, I'll have to trouble you to find that Li. He needs to give an explanation for what he did. The woman clearly understood Chu Yang's intention. He didn't want her to see a bloody scene, so she immediately said, Benefactor, you don't have to worry. It's just a scene of murder. I can still see it. After saying that, she fiercely reprimanded Li Yi. Yi, how can you dirty your benefactor's hands? Why don't you kill all of these people? Yes, mother. Li Yi immediately used his blood demon martial spirit. Tentacles shot out and killed everyone present. His aura suddenly increased, but his eyes were still clear. He then cupped his fists at Chu Yang and said, Benefactor, please wait for a moment. After saying that, he disappeared with a swish. After a short while, Li Yi grabbed a young man who was trembling all over and threw him to the ground with a bang. Benefactor, this is that bastard Li. He's the one who drove Chao Xiaomei crazy. Benefactor, how do you want to deal with him? Chu Yang sneered. Of course I'm going to put him in a dog cage. I'll let him have a taste of what it's like to be stuffed into a dog cage. Benefactor, I'll do it. Such a lowly thing should be done by a lowly person like me. Li Yi was about to move, but he was stopped by Chu Yang. Don't feel inferior just because you have such a father. You're not lowly. At least, that's what I think. Li Ye's entire body trembled. The benefactor in front of him seemed to know everything. After saying that, Chu Yang ignored Li Li's screams and stuffed him into the dog cage. Then, he put the sleeping Chao Xiaomei into his interspatial ring and floated away. He instantly disappeared without a trace, leaving only his voice behind. Help me hang him outside and let the people of Seven Wheel City watch him until he goes crazy. Farewell, benefactor! Chapter 1184. Chu Yang was in a hurry and in a hurry. In the Seven-Wheel City, someone saw him and the parrot. In the Seven-Wheel Demon Realm, someone also saw the two of them. In the Sky Academy, Chu Yang caused a huge commotion. At that time, He and the parrot were also very eye-catching. How could the Saint Master not see him when he appeared? Most importantly, he tried his best to humiliate the Saint Master in the seven-wheel demon realm. This old bastard probably hated him to the core. Therefore, the old bastard would definitely investigate his identity. If he connected the two, he would probably be suspicious and would definitely confirm whether he was in the Sky Academy or not. If this was the case, the Saint Master should be able to find out his identity. This was definitely not what Chu Yang wanted to see. Although he claimed that he had fallen together with the seven-wheel demon realm and would only appear after his cultivation had reached a certain level, how could an old bastard like the Saint Master believe him so easily? Overall, Chu Yang felt that this was a big flaw in his plan. Of course, all of this might not happen at all, but he had to imagine the worst. It was better to be safe than sorry. While Chu Yang was dealing with the seven-wheel city's Li family, Sima Jian called Cui Xinho, Olajing, and Hao Haodong over at the Seal of the Sky Academy's passage. He went straight to the point. You should be able to feel that you are about to break through, right? Yes, senior. In these past few days, under the guidance of Sima Jian, Cui Xinho's group of 3 had completely gone through the primordial martial realm, Qi Soul realm, ascending soul realm, and soul circulation realm once more. Their foundations were countless times more solid than before. They cultivated day and night. Sima Jian was even more strict. If they were careless, they would be severely punished. Moreover, to be honest, they all felt that cultivation was a bit dangerous. Then you should also feel it. Your lightning punishment is about to descend. The 3 of them had a solemn expression. Generally speaking, lightning punishment would only descend when a cultivator broke through to the soul amalgamation realm. However, when they were breaking through to the spirit realm, the lightning punishment would descend. This made them very nervous. They knew the reason. That was because there were otherworldly demons in the passageway. They had comprehended and absorbed the laws of the other world. Although they had become very strong, they had also attracted lightning punishment. Sima Jian saw that the 3 of them had serious expressions on their faces, so he said bluntly, "If the lightning punishment falls, the 3 of you only have a 50% chance of surviving the lightning punishment, or even lower. Now tell me your answer." There was only a 50-50 chance or even lower. Cui Xinho, Olajing, and Hao Haodong couldn't help but frown. After all, this was a matter of life and death. If you don't have the guts, then go back to the village and get married and start a family. After that, don't think about anything else. In the future, if you are bullied by the people of the East Continent, there is no need to feel any resentment or resentment. Just accept it in peace because this is your choice. Just as Sima Jian finished speaking, Hao Haodong opened his mouth and said, "Senior, I feel that after a while, the chances of surviving the lightning tribulation will increase. Why are you in such a hurry?" "Because of the Eastern Wilderness." "The Eastern Wilderness." The 3 of them were shocked. "Senior, what happened in the Eastern Wilderness?" Chapter 1185. Haha, the Eastern Wilderness did well. The geniuses of the Star Academy and the Myriad Academy were crushed by him. What's so strange about that? The Academy Masters of the 6 Academies were chased around by the Eastern Wilderness like dogs. That's what's shocking. I hate that I wasn't there. After all, if I had witnessed that scene with my own eyes, it would be enough to make me laugh for the rest of my life. But is the Supreme Demon Venerable really the ancestor of the Eastern Wilderness? The 3 of them weren't sure about this question and couldn't help but look at Sima Jian. "Why are you looking at me?" "I don't know either." Sima Jian's tone was very cold, but he still explained, "It's possible, but the probability is very low. The Eastern Wilderness should have understood the secret of the 7 Wheels Demon Realm and done it in passing to use the Supreme Demon Venerable to boost the reputation of the Eastern Wilderness. Senior, logically speaking, the Eastern Wilderness should have sunk along with the 7 Wheels Demon Realm. Even if the three of us were to undergo the tribulation now, it would be useless. The three of them spoke again. That bastard, how could he have sunk along with the Seven Wheels demon realm? You guys are underestimating him too much. Sima Jian didn't beat around the bush and said directly, the Sage Master was humiliated by the Eastern Wilderness and is now suspecting the Eastern Wilderness's identity. The Eastern Wilderness's performance in the Sky Academy was too shocking, especially that parrot. It really can't do anything right. Sima Jian knew that the Sage Master was already suspecting Chu Yang's identity. As for how he got the information, Cui Xinho and the others naturally wouldn't ask. At this time, the three of them completely understood, but they were still a little surprised. Senior, were you so sure that the Eastern Wilderness would definitely cause a huge commotion in the Seven Wheels demon realm? That's why you made preparations beforehand. Humph! Sima Jian snorted. What's so strange about that? Haven't you personally experienced how heaven-defying the Eastern Wilderness is? Although I suppressed that old trash's cultivation, if it were you guys, would you have the ability to kill him? The old trash was the Pillfire Sage. If I say no, it means no. There are many people who can say such a thing, but how many of them can actually do it? Can the three of you do it? Cui Xinho and the other two immediately remembered what Chu Yang had done in the entrance examination of the Sky Academy. It could be said that he could do whatever he wanted. He could even strip people naked and hang them up to dry. Being able to charge out of the encirclement of hundreds of thousands of people was already good enough, but the Eastern Wilderness had completely toyed with hundreds of thousands of people. It was unbelievable. The only ones who can come out of the asylum alive are the three of you, or to be more precise, only the people in the Eastern Wilderness. The three of you are just collateral damage, Sima Jian said. Cui Xinho and the other two immediately knew that Sima Jian had been paying attention to them all this time. Sima Jian had made preparations in advance. Now that they heard it, it was not surprising. It's just that I didn't expect him to cause such a huge commotion, and so quickly. When the three of them heard this, they were shocked again. After that, the three of them thought for a moment and instantly understood. They didn't have enough time to prepare because the Eastern Wilderness had completely exceeded Sima Jian's expectations. At this moment, they finally understood why Sima Jian had insisted that they first cultivate the cultivation method that could change their body and appearance. Now, let me ask you, which one of you is willing to go through the tribulation in advance? Me! Me! Chapter 1186. Don't compete with me. Hao Haodong suddenly said, it's not a matter of whether you're afraid of death or not. This is an important matter related to the identity of the Eastern Wilderness. You can't be careless. Among the three of us, after changing into the appearance of the Eastern Wilderness, I'm the most likely person to pass the thunder punishment. Cui Xinho and Olajing instantly fell silent. After Hao Haodong was humiliated in the Sky Academy, although Chu Yang had helped him vent his anger, Hao Haodong's cultivation had been particularly crazy these days, leaving the two of them behind. Okay, it's you. Sima Jian also agreed with Hao Haodong's words. Hao Haodong said proudly, Senior, please rest assured. Even if I fail the thunder punishment, I'll immediately self-destruct and let them think that the Eastern Wilderness is dead. After the Eastern Wilderness returns, I think he must have a way. After a pause, he said, Senior, you must have a way to resurrect the Eastern Wilderness. You're really ambitious. Is this something you should think about? Sima Jian scolded coldly. At this moment, his eyes suddenly pierced through the layers of space and looked outside. Then, an incomparably sarcastic smile appeared on his face. Perhaps we can still delay for a while. After saying that, he ordered Hao Haodong, immediately use the cultivation method I gave you to change into the appearance of the Eastern Wilderness and then come out with me. Hao Haodong did as he was told. When the four of them arrived outside the seal and were about to pass the tribulation, someone suddenly asked to see them. Senior, Junior Tang Jiong requests to see you. Cui Xinho and the other two instantly understood Sima Jian's sneer. What's the matter? As soon as Sima Jian's voice sounded, Tang Jiong realized that the voice did not come from the seal, but from outside. He couldn't help but be a little surprised. His eyes flickered, and no one knew what he was thinking. He immediately leaned over. Senior, the Academy has decided to abolish the rule that people from the Eastern Wilderness can only enter the Chores Academy when they first enter the Sky Academy. As he spoke, he originally wanted to search for Chu Yang's figure, but when he suddenly felt Sima Jian's incomparably sharp aura, he immediately did not dare to breathe loudly and obediently, not daring to make any small movements. I know. Sima Jian understood that he was chasing him away. Senior. However, Tang Jiong did not leave. He opened his mouth again and said, previously, Chu Yang, Cui Xinho, Olajing, Hao Haodong, and Scumbag Chu had outstanding results in the entrance exam. They have the potential to become outer courtyard students, or even inner courtyard students. Therefore, for the sake of fairness, the Academy has decided to give the four of them a chance to be re-evaluated to determine their levels. I got it. It was this sentence again. However, this time, Sima Jian was even more impatient. Traces of displeasure could be heard in his tone, causing cold sweat to involuntarily form on Tang Jiong's forehead. The person in front of him was a ruthless person who killed without batting an eyelid. I shouldn't have accepted this task. Tang Jiong secretly regretted it, but he forced himself to say, Senior, please forgive me for saying this. Because of the 7 wheels of demons, the Academy took advantage of the situation and abolished this rule. Therefore, this matter should be dealt with sooner rather than later. What a good excuse! After Cui Xinho and the others heard this, they could not help but laugh coldly in their hearts. In this way, the Eastern Wilderness had no choice but to appear. This was because only the Eastern Wilderness and them could officially pass the exam. Only then would the abolition of this rule become a reality. There was no doubt about it. If not, although it was abolished verbally, it was not actually implemented. Perhaps it could be changed back casually. Do I need you to teach me? Sima Jian's cold gaze swept over. Tang Jiong's heart trembled. Senior, I only have good intentions. After all, I'm afraid that there are people in the Academy who will repeat it. Why are you afraid? You have never repeated it and have always been targeting the Eastern Wilderness. Cui Xinho and the others were enraged. So what if it's repeated? Do I need to care? If I want to abolish this bullshit rule, it's easy. After killing 1 round, it will naturally be abolished. His tone was incomparably cold and filled with killing intent. Tang Jiong's clothes were already soaked in cold sweat. He did not dare to say another word and immediately turned to leave. However, at this moment, he heard Sima Jian's cold voice again. There's a dog coming. I won't go through the tribulation today. The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Tang Jiong carefully turned his head to look. To his astonishment, he saw Chu Yang in the distant sky flying back rapidly. In an instant, it entered the depths of the seal and disappeared. It was only a moment, but this amount of time was enough for Tang Jiong to clearly see Chu Yang. It was exactly the same as he had seen in the portrait. Unfortunately, he was unable to sense any more. From the looks of it, the Eastern Wilderness 002 in the 7 Wheels of Demons should not be this Chu Yang. Tang Jiong thought for a while and shook his head. Why do I need to think about this? I'll just go back and tell them what I saw. Chapter 1187. It took Chu Yang a lot more time to send Wang Bushong and his mother to the deserted village than he had expected. After all, there were some things that he couldn't just turn a blind eye to and ignore. For example, The people in the deserted village wanted to seal off the village to hide his identity, forbidding him from entering and leaving freely. When he found out, his heart skipped a beat. What the hell? Wasn't this asking for his life? How could he turn the entire deserted village into a cage and a prison because of him? Another example was Chao Xiaomei. After she woke up, she heard that Wang Xinghuang had been killed and Wang Bushong had someone to rely on. After being humiliated by Li Li, she lost her chastity and often tried to commit suicide. This gave Chu Yang a headache. By the time he finished dealing with these matters, returned to the Sky Academy, and sneaked back to the seal of the passageway, half a month had passed. In this half a month's time, Tang Jiong came a few more times, but Sima Jian completely ignored him every time. Seeing that this method didn't work, the people in the Sky Academy immediately changed their strategy. They asked Xiao Chang'e to provoke Chu Yang. Xiao Chang'e was the grandson of the Pill Fire Sage, and the Pill Fire Sage was killed by Chu Yang. Therefore, there was no problem for Xiao Chang'e to provoke Chu Yang. This was directed at Chu Yang, and Sima Jian couldn't do much about it. He could only delay. However, if this continued and Chu Yang still didn't show up, the plan would collapse. It was tantamount to silently telling the people in the Sky Academy that Chu Yang was not in the Sky Academy at all. In particular, in order to force Chu Yang to show himself, Xiao Chang'e could be said to have done everything he could to force Chu Yang to show himself. Whatever was difficult to hear, whatever was said was unbearable to look at. Almost no one would be able to tolerate it, let alone someone like Chu Yang who had never suffered a loss. Therefore, when Chu Yang and the parrot returned in time, Cui Xinho and the other two were very happy. Eastern Wilderness, you're finally back. If you didn't come back, I'm afraid it would be dangerous. Xiao Chang'e, that maggot, has been too arrogant these past 2 days. He actually cursed 18 generations of your ancestors in the Eastern Wilderness, and even said some filthy words. Even I couldn't bear it. Those maggots from the Sky Academy are really sinister. If your identity is exposed in the Eastern Wilderness, the consequences will be unimaginable. Cui Xinho, Hao Haodong, and Olajing took turns to talk about what had happened recently, so that Chu Yang had a complete understanding of the current situation. However, what shocked him the most was that Hao Haodong actually planned to undergo the tribulation in advance in order to hide his identity. Fortunately, none of this happened. Otherwise, if Hao Haodong failed his tribulation and died, he wouldn't know what to do. Whether it was the Eastern Wilderness or Sima Jian, Chu Yang felt a great deal of care. What they did moved him, but it also made him feel a great burden. It was not an ordinary burden. For him, it was an unprecedented burden, a huge burden. The expectations of the people in the Eastern Wilderness made him almost unable to breathe. The leader of the Eastern Wilderness, the leader of the Eastern Wilderness, such an identity was invisibly added to him, making him even more nervous. He felt a heavy burden on his shoulders all the time, and it was difficult to bear. To be honest, Chu Yang wanted to be expected, but he didn't like such a great expectation, let alone such a great sense of mission. Wild dog, do you dare to come out and fight with me? Chu Yang just came back and understood the situation in the Sky Academy. Immediately, someone shouted outside. Chapter 1188. #yen. Upon hearing this, Chu Yang immediately activated the magical power of the 3-character classic. He cursed wildly for a while. He was really furious in his heart. Hee. The parrot was laughing in its heart. Chu Hang can be cursed like this. Interesting. I just came back and there's a good show to watch. What are you going to do in the Eastern Wilderness? Are you going to teach Xiao Chang'e a lesson? If you go out, you have to be careful. There are many eyes waiting for you in the light and in the dark. If you appear, you will be the focus of their attention. If you fight with Xiao Chang'e, they may be able to infer your identity from your methods if you are not careful. Cui Xinho and the other two spoke, but Sima Jian did not say anything. However, he also wanted to see how Chu Yang would deal with the situation. Waha! The parrot saw their worried expressions and laughed so hard that it rolled on the ground. This divine bird is laughing to death. You three fools, who are you worried about? My master is called Cheating Chu, Wicked Chu, Evildoer Chu, Invincible Chu, Lonely Chu. Haha, you guys are simply too funny right now. Are you guys planning to make this divine bird laugh to death? Then take over this divine bird's position and inherit this divine bird's wisdom. The three immediately glared at the parrot. It's all because of you, this lousy bird. If it weren't for you, the eastern wilderness would not be in such trouble. Although they didn't say anything, the parrot was already in a bad mood. With a flick of its wings, it angrily said, "What are you glaring at? This divine bird is speaking words of wisdom. Even if the sky falls, there's Pit Chu to hold it up. You're all salty radish eaters worrying about nothing. Little bitch Chu, you are indeed a deceitful bird. It is not only a deceitful bird, it is also a wicked degenerate bird." The parrot was overjoyed when it heard this. Waha, you three have finally begun to realize this divine bird's heaven-defying martial prowess. Aren't you hopeless? Divine bird, I give you a compliment. Its virtue was unparalleled in the world. The three of them already had a deep understanding of this parrot. Hao Haodong immediately said, "I'm not afraid of godlike birds, but I'm afraid of pig-like birds." The parrot slanted its eyes and lectured, "Dang dang, don't think that you're a genius just because you've cultivated for a few days and gained some skills. How dare you change this divine bird's name? This divine bird is warning you, there will be no next time. If there is a next time, I will strip you naked and hang you up to dry." Hee hee, they want to confirm if I'm Eastern Wilderness 002, right? Then I'll fulfill their wish. Chu Yang suddenly spoke, interrupting everything. Because of the village, because of the actions of Cui Xinho and the others, and because of these people, Chu Yang had a lot of ideas in his mind. Because of this, he also thought of his favorite way to deal with it. If the people of the Eastern Wilderness could make sacrifices for Eastern Wilderness 002, why couldn't he do the exact opposite? Since you want to know, I'll let you know. I'm telling the truth. It's up to you all to believe me. Eastern Wilderness, don't you think you should think about it again? Cui Xinho and the others were shocked, and Sima Jian couldn't help but look at Chu Yang. Don't worry. Chu Yang sneered. Since they've already suspected me, it's useless to cover it up. It's better to give them a big surprise. Chu Yang didn't like to be secretive, and there were always times when he would make mistakes. It was better to pretend to be himself and confuse the people of the Sky Academy. Then why don't you get out now? Sima Jian suddenly said. In fact, he was also surprised by Chu Yang's response. He was very surprised, and he thought that some people might be more surprised than him. Yes, Sword God, I'll get out right now. Chu Yang flew straight out of the seal. Before he arrived, his voice was heard first. Time is too thin, and the gap between my fingers is too wide. A casual glance, years have passed. You all miss me very much, miss my heroic appearance, my martial prowess, and my naughty smile. That's right, everyone, I'm indeed more handsome now than before. Chapter 1189. Waha! The parrot also laughed out loud. Wait, you're not expecting me to appear again, but you're looking for an excuse not to leave. But how can this divine bird disappoint you? Today, I'll definitely let you bask in my glory again. Cui Xinho and the other two were instantly convinced. They spoke a little too early just now. The parrot's shamelessness was definitely not below Chu Yang's. It was true that like master, like martial pet. And this martial pet was even more shameless than the master. Swish. As soon as Chu Yang appeared, he saw the crowd, a bustling crowd. He was naturally not surprised. Xiao Chang'e came to hoot, How could no one come to watch the show? At the front of the crowd was a slender young man with an incomparably handsome face. The moment Chu Yang appeared, he suddenly gritted his teeth, and a flood of hatred erupted in his eyes. His sharp gaze was like two spears, directly piercing over. This thing is Xiao Chang'e? Chu Yang glanced at him slightly and immediately sensed his cultivation, 9th tier of the Transcendence realm cultivation. But he did not pay attention to him and did his own thing. Heaven-blessed martial arts. Chu Yang's voice just came out clearly, and the parrot followed up from behind. Bird handsome, live well. Sky flash, I shine on the stage. Sky flash, I shine on the stage. Chu Yang and the parrot followed and struck a pose, majestic and awe-inspiring, and said in unison, "We're the descendants of the demon." Behind, Cui Xinho and the others directly collapsed. When the crowd saw this bizarre combination, they suddenly fell silent. It was as if they were shocked, or perhaps they didn't know how to react. Everyone, long time no see. How are you? Everyone, long time no see. I miss you very much. After Chu Yang finished his appearance, he began to ask for applause. Everyone, where's the applause, the shouting, the screaming? I've become more and more handsome. Aren't you excited? My fangirls, where are you? The people of the Sky Academy finally burst into laughter. Although some of them had seen Chu Yang before, or heard that Chu Yang seemed to be very shameless, they had never expected that he would be so ridiculous. It could be said that this was simply amazing. How could there be such a weirdo in this world? Everyone, it's been a long time. Chu Yang opened his mouth again. It seems that all of you still don't understand what kind of earth-shaking changes I have undergone. Now, allow me to explain in detail. Hee hee. Chu Yang said with a sinister smile, "Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard of any unimaginable earth-shattering news that has shaken the entire East continent recently? That's right, I'm East Wasteland 002, the omnipotent East Wasteland 002, who has charmed thousands of young girls and is doted upon by thousands of people." "You're right," the parrot continued. "I am the divine bird on the shoulder of Eastern Wilderness 002, the bird that charmed thousands of female birds and is loved by thousands of people." When Cui Xinho, Hao Haodong, and Olajing heard this, they found that the parrot could not keep up with Chu Yang's rhythm. Charmed thousands of female birds? Obviously, his level was not high enough. As for the others, they felt as if they had been hit by a stick. They were a little dizzy and a little dizzy. Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002. Why were they not surprised and did not believe it at all? They were really a little dizzy and confused, and their feet seemed to be a little light. Even though they had heard that Eastern Wilderness 002 seemed to be very unreliable, with all kinds of weird things happening, Chu Yang in front of them was also the same, but it seemed to be more excessive, and it seemed to be a little too stiff, a forced weirdo. Xiao Chang'e was also very confused now. As soon as he heard that Chu Yang claimed to be Eastern Wilderness 002, he was shocked, but he soon found that he could not believe it. As for the reason, he did not know. Chapter 1190. As soon as the news of Chu Yang's appearance and claiming to be Eastern Wilderness 002 spread, the Sky Academy rushed over. Miss, is your future husband selling himself like a madman again?" Shangguan Mei had been paying attention to this matter. When Chu Yang appeared, she immediately informed Shangguan Lan through the voice-transmitting charm. "Damned girl, I'll tear your mouth off later." Shangguan Lan blushed and used the transmission formation. Her delicate body flashed and disappeared from her courtyard. In the blink of an eye, she arrived and flew to Shangguan Mei's side. When she arrived, she found that her brother Yang was being watched and targeted to a great extent. There was a sea of people, and she didn't know how many people had come. Many directors of the Sky Academy had come, and they were all over the sky. Soul Merging Sage. Faxiang Sage. Nirvana Sage. The people that Shangguan Lan noticed were all extraordinary. Among the three people, Soul-Merging Sage was the director of the outer courtyard of the Sky Academy, Ephaseong Sage was the director of the inner courtyard, and Nirvana Sage was the director of the elite courtyard. The Sky Academy was divided into the upper courtyard and the lower courtyard. According to the level of the students, the upper courtyard was divided into the outer courtyard, the inner courtyard, and the elite courtyard. In fact, there was also a courtyard of saints, but the saints were not ordinary students of the Sky Academy, and it was difficult to control them. Therefore, there was no director of the courtyard of saints. Only the Saint Master could control the saint. Most of the students of the outer courtyard were in the soul-merging realm, while most of the students of the inner courtyard were in the Ephaseong realm. Most of the students of the elite courtyard were in the Nirvana realm. It was said that because of this, the directors of the three courtyards were called Soul-Merging Sage, Ephaseong Sage, and Nirvana Sage. Shangguan Lan suddenly looked at a certain place in the void, and her beautiful eyes were shining. She thought to herself, "Is the Saint Master also here?" With her keen senses, she sensed an extremely unusual fluctuation. It seems that everyone wants to know whether Brother Yang is Eastern Wilderness 002 or not, and they are scheming for this. How could she not know what had happened these days? As for whether or not Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002, she wasn't sure herself and was quite curious. In addition to these people, Shangguan Lan also found a few abnormally powerful auras. She glanced over and a few slender figures were imprinted in her eyes. Gong Sun Long. In the middle of the crowd there was a man in his mid-20s. He had a sturdy body, a ferocious face, and a strong back and a bare waist. His arms were exposed, and there were hideous scars on them. They looked like centipedes that covered his entire arm. He looked a little scary, and his whole body was filled with a murderous aura. At first glance, he looked like the kind of person who often bled on the edge of a blade. But who would have thought that he was actually the genius disciple of the famous Gongsun family in the East Continent, Gongsun Long? Gongsun Long had amazing talent, but he was fierce and aggressive. He had only been in the Sky Academy for a little more than a year, but many people had died in his hands. Chu Yang's elder brother, Chu Fei, had his arm cut off by him. At that time, if it weren't for Shangguan Lan, Chu Fei would have been killed by Gongsun Long. Brother Yang will definitely not let this Gongsun Long go. He will fight with him sooner or later. Shangguan Lan frowned. Brother Yang is even more ridiculous. He has just entered the Sky Academy, but he has already made the Sky Academy restless. He also killed Gongsun Long's younger brother, Gongsun Ing, and he will not rest until Gongsun Long is dead. In addition to Gongsun Long, she noticed a few people who immediately made her unhappy and even disgusted. "Miss, you should restrain your aura. Otherwise, Xia Wanjin and the others will notice it, especially that half-human half-demon Lu Yunpeng. He will stick to you like a dog skin plaster." Chapter 1191. At this moment, at the edge of Shangguan Mei's line of sight, there was a man with slightly pointy ears, like the tip of a small lotus. His face was very feminine and incomparably beautiful. Even beautiful women would feel ashamed of their inferiority. This man was Lu Yunpeng. The Xia Wanjin she mentioned was a young man in golden clothes, and his appearance was also incomparably handsome. The difference was that compared to Lu Yunpeng, he was more masculine and had an incomparable aura of wealth. "Miss, and your future husband, after just a shining appearance, he claimed to be Eastern Wilderness 002. Shangguan Mei told Shangguan Lan the general situation. The combination of a sheep and a bird can be described as a weirdo. At this time, the red bird on Shangguan Mei's shoulder said very unhappily. Just now, when it suddenly heard the parrot claim to be a handsome bird, it immediately put the parrot into the ranks of the dirty ruffians. If the parrot knew, it would refute that it was not evil, but the bird was not pure. It was just a simple sentence, look at what was in its head. How could it think of the supreme glory of carrying on the family line? Everyone, I am a pear blossom, handsome and handsome. Where are your applause and screams? At this time, after Chu Yang claimed to be Eastern Wilderness 002, he said again, everyone, after not seeing each other for a few days, am I not the object of your love? Brother Sheep, you are really selling yourself like crazy again. How can you be so shameless to praise yourself like this? Shangguan Lan whispered. Chu Yang, she had imagined what kind of person he would be countless times, but she had to say that such a Chu Yang absolutely surprised her. Miss, this is already good. The red bird heard Shangguan Mei's words and nodded. They were both shameless, but Chu Yang was much better than the parrot. However, Mrs.'s future husband is still a little talented. Shangguan Mei smiled and said, time is too thin, the gap between the fingers is too wide, a casual glance after a long time, this sentence is still very good. Hong Niao immediately compared the parrot to Chu Yang, and found that the parrot was both shameless and untalented. Where are my fangirls? How can you abandon me when I need you the most? There was no applause. Chu Yang immediately looked at the beautiful young girls in the field. Soon, his eyes met Shangguan Lan's. After a slight pause, he fixed his eyes on Shangguan Lan. Brother Goat, you really did sense me earlier. Shangguan Lan lowered her head and avoided Chu Yang's burning gaze. Then, it seemed that because of Chu Yang, Lu Yunpeng found Shangguan Lan. He was delighted and immediately flew towards Shangguan Lan. What the hell is that? How dare you flirt with my future wife in front of me? I'll beat you to death. Chu Yang glared at him. Wild dog, are you done being crazy? Xiao Chang'a's words instantly angered Chu Yang. The corner of his mouth immediately curled up, and he looked at Xiao Chang'a. Eastern maggot, before I came back, I heard that you've cultivated the 3-character scripture to the peak. I treated you as a little brat who lacked discipline, so I didn't bother with you. If you don't have any manners, I'll take care of you on behalf of your parents. Chapter 1192. Little brat, go play in the mud. This is an adult's business. What do you know? If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll slap you. Chu Yang held back his anger and got down to business first. I can see from your eyes that you really don't believe in my heavenly martial prowess, but I'm really Eastern Wilderness 002. What do you want? Do you want me to prove that I'm me? With that, he pointed at Xiao Chang'a. You're like asking this little brat to come here and give me a certificate to prove that his father is his father and his mother is his mother. But you want me to give such a weird certificate. Don't you think it's embarrassing? Don't you think you're weird? It seemed to make a lot of sense, but who was the weirdo? Who could be weirder than you? Wild dog, do you dare to fight with me at the same level? Xiao Chang'a was repeatedly ignored and belittled by Chu Yang. He couldn't hold back his anger and was furious. Noisy! Chu Yang said impatiently. Eastern maggot, in order to avoid noise pollution, I'll satisfy you. He stretched out a finger. One finger is enough to deal with a little brat like you. But immediately, he couldn't help muttering, I'm afraid I'll be called an adult bullying a child. It's really a headache. Chu Yang couldn't help but scratch his hair and frown. Wild dog, how dare you humiliate me like this? Xiao Chang'a was infuriated. He cupped his fists towards the Nirvana sage in midair, and said in a clear voice, Grandpa Do, please help me set up the battle forbidden zone. I want to fiercely teach this wild dog a lesson and vent my anger first. In the future, I'll take his dog head and offer it to my grandpa. Little Chang'a, this is the Sky Academy. The Academy rules are the Academy rules. Do you know? Chang'a knows. That's good. After that, the Nirvana sage shook his hand and a light shield fell on a flat ground. Then, it sank into the ground, but there was a restrictive force flowing there. Whoosh! Xiao Chang'e flew in and pointed at Chu Yang. Wild dog, in this battle forbidden zone, your realm will be restricted to the soul amalgamation realm. I want to see how you're going to defeat me with a single finger. Chu Yang shook his head. I've always butchered people like Bai Chenxing or Li Xing-san. How sad. Today, a dignified 30,000-meter body, actually have to deal with a little lousy kid. My life has truly been a failure at this point. This Chu Yang really thought he was Eastern Wilderness 002. After everyone heard this, they became even more confused. Wild dog, cut the crap. Do you dare or not? Is this a question of whether I dare or not? Chu Yang was distressed. This matter is related to my face as a heavenly martial artist. If this matter were to spread out, they would say that I'm bullying the old and young. How unpleasant would that be? You have to think for me. He's only at the spirit stage. Where did his confidence come from? Could it be that Chu Yang is really Eastern Wilderness 002? The people of the Sky Academy were completely confused. Chu Yang had also entered the battle forbidden zone. He put one hand behind his back and raised a finger. He said to Xiao Chang'e, "Little lousy kid, don't cry when you lose. Although I only used a finger, I did bully you." Humph! Xiao Chang'e snorted angrily. He no longer bickered with Chu Yang shamelessly and directly attacked. When he was 50 feet away from Chu Yang, he had already activated his spiritual qi. Divine light erupted from his body as he slammed his palm over. The spiritual qi surged like a torrential river and immediately turned into yellow sand that filled the sky. In an instant it turned into a desert. The desert was filled with smoke, and the yellow sand seemed to be gold. Chapter 1193. Rumble. Thunder and lightning appeared in the desert. Thunder rumbled and snakes danced in the air. Whoosh! Violent winds howled. Originally, the appearance of lightning in the desert was extremely strange, but at this time, the violent winds swept out, making the desert even more violent. An enormous sandstorm was swept up, and the momentum was even more terrifying. Wild dog, this move is very simple. It's just the fusion of sand, wind, and thunder. If you want to defeat me with one finger, then I'll just raise my hand and beat you up. After Xiao Chang'e finished speaking, he laughed and was in high spirit. However, the power of his palm surged out continuously. The power became more and more astonishing. In an instant, it drowned Chu Yang. Little Chang'e, not bad. The Nirvana sage stroked his beard and smiled, as expected of Brother Zhao's grandson. The fusion of wind and sand martial soul has the ability to turn sand into sand. It's already amazing. After evolving the desert, it's even more amazing. At present, even a 9th-level soul fusion realm martial artist would find it difficult to resist. If they're not careful, they'll be turned into sand. Xiao Chang'e's martial soul was the fusion of wind and sand. Among them, the sand martial soul had the ability to turn sand into sand. If he could cross realms, he could easily kill his grandfather. Thus, it should be enough for him to fight Chu Yang. The soul fusion sage nodded and said, although his realm was restricted and he fell from the transcendence realm to the spirit realm, he still comprehended the mysteries of magic power. When he used it, the desert he evolved was even more realistic than the soul fusion realm martial soul. He could even erupt thunder in the desert. When did the desert have thunder? The Transcendence Sage also praised. To be able to embed disharmonious thunder in the desert, he can be said to be a genius among geniuses. Little brat, don't you know that I killed your grandfather? I don't know. Don't you know that I'm Eastern Wilderness 002? You're indeed a child. You don't know how powerful I am. Chu Yang said repeatedly. As for Xiao Chang'e's means, he didn't take it seriously. Yes, it was indeed amazing. However, who could be his opponent in the same realm? He could be said to be invincible in the same realm. At the very least, he had yet to meet an opponent who could contend against him at the same cultivation level. He raised his index finger and pointed forward. Suddenly, a dazzling sword ray shot out. Shocking divine sword art. Everyone in the Sky Academy was shocked. Who didn't know about Sima Jian's shocking divine sword art? The sword light shot out, and after entering the desert, it immediately divided into 7 or 8 rays of light. One ray of light soared into the sky, turning into a black cloud and pouring rain. 3 rays of light turned into 3 towering mountains and fell down, blocking the sandstorm. The remaining rays of light exploded, turning into specks of light that entered the desert. Soon after, saplings began to grow, instantly turning into towering trees. Shao Changa's desert turned into a mountain forest in the blink of an eye. It's not the astounding divine sword art. It doesn't seem to be the 5 elements sword art either. What kind of method is this? The Nirvana sage and the other 2 exclaimed in unison. Using mountains to stop the sandstorm, thunder to produce rain, and wood to suppress sand, he turned the desert into a lush mountain forest. This was simply a method of creation. How could the 3 of them not be shocked? This was indeed a method of creation. Although Chu Yang didn't take Shao Changa seriously, it was absolutely amazing. Shao Changa was also stunned, and the smile on his face disappeared. Then, he saw the mountain forest turn into a divine sword and shoot at him. It can change? How is this possible? It was like 2 armies fighting. As soon as Shao Changa's army started to fight, all his soldiers changed sides and rushed at him with the enemy. His expression changed drastically, and he shouted angrily. Spirit chi gushed out from his body, and he turned into a huge golden sandman. He held a golden shield in his hand, and the grains of sand on the shield were like divine gold, shining with a metallic luster. He roared, "Desert Guardian!" The huge golden sandman, like a god, seemed to have its dignity blasphemed, and was roaring angrily. The mountain forest turned into a divine sword and stabbed at him. The sand shield exploded with a bang, and the Sandman was also pierced through and collapsed directly. Shao Changa only felt that the sword chi was so dense that it could stab him to death. Suddenly, his face turned extremely pale. Chapter 1194. With a thought, Chu Yang's divine sword exploded, and he shook his head repeatedly. A little brat is indeed a little brat. He really can't stand my finger. Fortunately, I was prepared and thought of stopping before I attacked. Otherwise, wouldn't I have killed a little brat? Puff. Hearing this, Shao Changa, who had been holding back from spitting out blood, couldn't hold it in any more at this moment. He opened his mouth and spat out a river of blood. Chu Yang thought to himself, "How dare you insult me like this? I'll anger you to death." He continued, "Little brat, are you going to spit out all your blood and then commit suicide? Oh heavens, wouldn't this make me a vicious, merciless, and inhumane demon who even kills children? Who's going to save me?" Hearing Chu Yang's screams, Shao Changa was so angry that he fainted directly. Swish! Chu Yang rushed over and shouted loudly, "Little brat, don't die. What will happen to my wisdom if you die?" The people of the Sky Academy didn't know what to say anymore. This was simply courting death. Shao Changa was seriously injured, and he still humiliated him like this. Fortunately, the little brat is not dead yet. My godly martial arts is still here. Chu Yang suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. His relieved look made Shangguan Lan burst into laughter. Lu Yunping, who was at the side, immediately shot a sharp look at Chu Yang. He couldn't wait to cut Chu Yang into pieces. He tried his best to win a smile from the beauty, but he couldn't. He didn't expect that today, a wild dog would do what he dreamed of. How could he bear it? Chu Yang wanted to kill Shao Changa directly and eliminate the hidden danger, but he couldn't. This was the Sky Academy, and many people were watching. Soon, someone took Xiao Chang'e away for treatment. Chu Yang expressed his gratitude to them and asked them to save the little brat. They didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and they just rolled their eyes. Everyone, I've sent that noisy brat flying with a single slap. Now, it's time to get down to business. Chu Yang said, I'm really Eastern Wilderness 002. What do you want me to do? Do you really want me to prove that I'm me? The expressions on Cui Xinho and the other two's faces were extremely interesting. They didn't know how to evaluate Chu Yang at all, so they could only say, Good, Eastern Wilderness, you're really good. They were truly convinced. Waha! The parrot let out a strange laugh and said, Everyone, this divine bird can guarantee that my lord's every word is like real gold, sparkling and shining. It really can't be any more real. I ask you all to loudly shout, My lord is lonely like snow, there is no enemy in the world, this little sister is invincible. What a mess. The people of the Sky Academy felt that this parrot was beyond saving. As for the parrot's personality, it was not worth a penny. Why don't you believe me? Chu Yang started to feel extremely sad. Then, he sang emotionally, I will always love this me. He was being shameless again. Shangguanlan's eyes widened, and her mouth was wide open. She suddenly began to feel that her face was burning. How could his fiancée be such a person? And the first line was already so shameless. How could the following lines be so shameless? The expressions of the people present were also very strange. They stared blankly at this incredible scene, and their minds seemed to be unable to function. The Nirvana sage, the Dharma aspect sage, and the soul-merging sage. Originally, Chu Yang was extremely shocked, but such emotions were instantly swept away. They really couldn't describe Chu Yang in words. After living for so long, it was the first time they had seen such a person. There is more than one way to be happy. Suddenly, there was only Chu Yang singing in the field, and the whole scene seemed to have become Chu Yang's concert. Chapter 1195. The most honorable thing is that everyone is the glory of the Creator. There is no need to hide, live for the life I like. There is no need for powder, just stand in the corner of the light. I am me, a firework with a different color. In the extreme silence, Chu Yang finished singing the entire song. At this time, there was still no sound in the audience. Phew! Shangguanlan let out a long sigh of relief and finally felt relieved. Although the song is weird, it is not too embarrassing. Flutter! The parrot immediately flew over and shouted, Master, it's my turn to sing a song. You can't drag me down for such a thing. At the same time, it asked for a song from Chu Yang. It wanted to be as cool as the one just now. I am me, a firework with a different color. After Chu Yang gave it to him, he opened his eyes wide. What do you mean by sometimes I feel like a little bird? This divine bird is a bird. It's fine if it's a little bird, but it can't fly high. Wicked, too wicked. This is a complete scam. But under the eyes of the audience, it would be more embarrassing if it didn't sing, so it could only sing. I am a little bird, I want to fly, but I can't fly high. The parrot could copy this song after listening to it once, so it definitely had a rhythm when it sang it. I am a little bird. Ha ha! Cui Xinho and the other two couldn't help it. They knew too well about Chu Yang and the parrot's prank. They immediately burst into laughter, and the audience burst into laughter. However, the parrot was very strong. After singing the entire song, it faced the audience with a strange smile. A bird is a bird with a different color. You people don't understand birds. Ha ha. The audience burst into laughter again, which made the parrot very depressed. Why did the wicked bird have to sing, and the audience was dead silent, listening attentively? It was a divine bird, and when it opened its mouth to sing, it laughed. Waha! Chu Yang also suddenly laughed. In an instant, even though Shangguanlan was mentally prepared, when she heard Chu Yang's strange laughter, her head directly lowered, almost drilling into the ground. One had to know that this weirdo was her fiancé. How was she supposed to live? Oh no. Chu Yang noticed Shangguanlan's expression and his heart skipped a beat. He had been under a lot of pressure recently and wanted to go crazy. He didn't expect that there would be such side effect. The parrot wasn't in a good mood either. It glared at Meng Hao and said, "Chu Hang, it was you who tricked the bird just now. What are you laughing at? Others laugh at me for being too crazy, and I laugh at them for not being able to see through it." Chu Yang had no choice but to be strong and continue to laugh. Then he pointed at the parrot and said, "You should have been like this, little bitch." The parrot's eyes lit up again, but then it became even more depressed. The scammer's on-the-spot guidance would only make it seem worse. "Brother Goat, is this the reason why you're so carefree and don't care about others?" Shangguanlan raised her head and looked at Chu Yang faintly. Only then did Chu Yang let out a long sigh of relief. She's finally saved, and we've given her a good preventive shot. As for the Nirvana sage and the others, their faces were gloomy. The man and the bird had teamed up to make fun of each other. They didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so their minds were in a mess, let alone find out anything or make any judgment. They came with expectations, but they went back empty-handed. The Nirvana sage frowned and thought for a while. After discussing with the Fa Xiang sage and the soul-merging sage, he immediately said, "Chu Yang, the Academy has decided to abolish the rule that those who enter the Sky Academy from the Eastern Wilderness can only enter the Chores Academy no matter what the result of the assessment is." There was an uproar in the crowd, but it soon quieted down. After all, this matter had long been spread and everyone knew. The Academy intends to start with you. Chapter 1196. Chu Yang looked up at the Nirvana sage and the other two in the air, and laughed in his heart. "You must be confused after what I did. Are you going to confirm my identity through the test?" "Excuse me, how should I address you, Mr. Fong Yuan of the Heavenly Court?" Chu Yang's words made everyone in the Sky Academy want to laugh again. What Fong Yuan of the Heavenly Court? He's really good at it. I'm the Nirvana Sage of the Elite Academy. The Nirvana Sage was being ridiculed by Chu Yang, but he could do nothing about it. If it were someone else, he would have slapped him to death, but he didn't have the guts to do that since the one in the Eastern Wilderness was still alive. He could only let Chu Yang be presumptuous. "So you're a sage. No wonder you know astronomy and geography. You're as good as me. You're handsome and have a good life." Chu Yang cupped his fists. "Sorry for the disrespect. I'm just asking. I'm Eastern Wilderness 002, the best in the East Continent. Do I still need to test? I'm definitely a saint of the Sky Academy." Here we go again. The people in the Sky Academy were even more confused now. They couldn't be sure whether Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002 or not. "How can you prove that you're Eastern Wilderness 002? The Nirvana Sage and the others were also confused. If Chu Yang was really Eastern Wilderness 002, he should hide his identity. Otherwise, if he was exposed, didn't he know what kind of danger he would face? Chu Yang shrugged his shoulders. "Prove that I'm me? Aren't you making things difficult for me? It's said that Eastern Wilderness 002 has sunk into the seven-wheel demon realm. How can you come out of it?" Chu Yang snapped his fingers and said, "That's easy. If I can make the seven wheels demonic territory sink, I can naturally make the seven wheels demonic territory appear again. Do you think it's difficult for me to come out?" It was equivalent to not saying anything. "You don't believe me?" The Nirvana Sage continued to ask. "Eastern Wilderness 002 can use the seven kneels of the Star Lord. Can you use it? I say, this heavenly court is full and round. Have you not understood the seven-wheel demonic region?" Chu Yang said proudly, In the 7 demonic domains, I am the supreme ruler. I can execute anything I want. It can be said that I can execute the law with a single thought. Not to mention the 7 Neels of a star venerate, I can even execute the 7 Neels of a star venerate. As for now, although I am still omnipotent, I still need to ponder over the 7 Neels of the star venerates for a while before I can execute it. It was still the same as saying nothing. Nirvana Sage said directly, even if you are Eastern Wilderness 002, you still need to abide by the Academy's rules and pass the Academy's assessment to determine whether you are an outer courtyard student or an inner courtyard student. The heavenly court is full and round. You are not done yet. How about this? Chu Yang's gaze swept past the Nirvana Sage, the Dharma Sage, and the others. Suddenly, the world of the 7 wheels in his body shook and buzzed. It rushed out endless ripples in the void and rippled in all directions. With a rumbling sound, the void behind him exploded. 8 divine bridges that were 10,000 feet long appeared. It was as if 8 divine dragons had drilled out from the void and entered his body. His entire body erupted with an extremely dazzling radiance. He opened his hand, and many stars condensed in his palm. In the blink of an eye, it was as if a starry sky had condensed in his empty stomach. It was extremely shocking. Gasp. Everyone couldn't help but gasp. They couldn't help but exclaim, how can there be such a huge divine bridge? His divine bridge is actually 10,000 feet long. My God, am I seeing things? If my divine bridge is compared to his, my divine bridge will be thrown away and I will die. Is he still a human? Everyone was surprised by Chu Yang's divine bridge. Almost no one paid attention to the starry sky condensed in his palm. Even the Nirvana Sage and the other 2 were the same. To everyone's surprise, Chu Yang was majestic and awe-inspiring. He said loudly, I, Chu Yang, am here to challenge the Sky Academy. I challenge all of you as a test. Chapter 1197. What? As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked and thought that they had misheard. Chu Yang actually wanted to challenge someone from the Sky Academy. The Sky Academy was full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There were many talents in the Sky Academy, and they were all geniuses. One could see monsters just by looking up, and there were countless people who hid their strength. The water was so deep. Who dared to say that he wanted to challenge someone from the Sky Academy? Savage, incomparably savage. Even if Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002, he didn't have this ability. Yes, Eastern Wilderness 002 had slaughtered many people in the 7-wheel demon zone. He killed Bai Chenxing of the Stars Fighting Academy, Li Xingsan of the Nature Academy, and even drove the heads of the 6 academies to flee like dogs. However, he did that with the help of the Thunder Tribulation and the 7-wheel demon zone. It was undeniable that Eastern Wilderness 002 was extremely amazing. The East Continent was afraid of his growth, but in fact they were really afraid of the Supreme Demon Venerable. The Supreme Demon Venerable couldn't imagine that just his corpse had completely destroyed the ancient demon sect that had once ruled the East Continent. It was unimaginably horrible. If Eastern Wilderness 002 was the descendant of the Supreme Demon Venerable, the East Continent had to be afraid even if the Supreme Demon Venerable was dead. How could such a supreme existence not have relatives and friends? No matter how weak his relatives and friends were, they were not people that the major forces of the East Continent could provoke. They could all be destroyed by the Supreme Demon Venerable. Therefore, the Eastern Wilderness 002 in the East Continent was really afraid of this place. As for East Wasteland 002 alone, he might not be able to do much. At most, the East Continent would have to pay a heavy price to kill him. After all, if Eastern Wilderness 002 was only one person, it was absolutely impossible for him to shake the whole East Continent and make the whole East Continent surrender. However, even so, Chu Yang was now going to challenge someone from the Sky Academy. Did he really think that he was invincible in the same realm? Bai Qianxing and Li Xingsan's talents were indeed shocking, but they were definitely not the most talented or shocking disciples in the Star Combat Academy and the Myriad Elephant Courtyard. Every single one of the 6 great academies was unfathomable. Sometimes, the most famous disciples only appeared on the surface. The true successors had no reputation at all, but they were incomparably powerful. They would only appear when the academy was in danger. This kind of thing was not rare. It had happened many times before. The extraterrestrial demons attacked the East Continent through the space-time tunnel. Most of them were famous geniuses and monsters who were in the front line to observe the strength of the extraterrestrial demons. In the end, it was these unknown geniuses who resisted the extraterrestrial demons. Although the headmasters of the 6 great academies were the headmasters of their respective academies and had extremely honorable statuses, they were definitely not the ultimate fighting force of the 6 great academies. Otherwise, if Bai Qianxing and Li Xingsan were the future hopes of the 2 great academies respectively, their deaths would cause great damage to the 2 great academies. At that time, how could the headmasters of the 2 great academies let Chu Yang kill them in the 7-wheel demon region? In short, Bai Qianxing and Li Xingsan were indeed extraordinary, but their deaths would not cause any damage to the 2 great academies. The same was true for the Sky Academy. Therefore, Chu Yang's behavior was simply arrogant. The ignorant are fearless. What does he think the Sky Academy is? Shallow water, a shallow beach, a well, or a pond. The real talents of the Sky Academy haven't shown up yet, but he dares to be so arrogant. There is no need to mention those people. The Qianzi of our Sky Academy alone is extremely terrifying. Not to mention Chu Yang, even the Eastern Wilderness 002 will definitely be crushed by the Qianzi in the same realm. We don't need the Qianzi. I think the 5 elements seed alone is enough. Chapter 1198. Brother Sheep. Shangguanlan's beautiful eyes were also full of horror. She looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. Hong Niao said, "In addition to being crazy, the little sheep can also be crazy. It's much better than that parrot. Even if it is beaten like a dog, it can still be arrogant." Shangguan Mei glanced at Hong Niao speechlessly. She didn't see what was so good about it. Being crazy was already terrible enough. If it was still crazy, it was really hopeless. The faces of the Nirvana sage, the Dharma sage, and the others became very ugly. Chu Yang didn't take the students of the Sky Academy seriously. How dare he challenge them, the older generation? It was obvious that he didn't even take them seriously. However, although Chu Yang was arrogant, he did have the capital. His divine bridge alone was enough for him to look down on many heroes in the world. Eastern Wilderness, don't you think about it again? Cui Xinho, O Lejing, and Hao Haodong were also scared to death by Chu Yang. They anxiously transmitted their voices to each other secretly. "Stupid bird, why don't you persuade him?" Waha! When the parrot heard the message, it let out a strange laugh. Then it secretly sent a mocking message to the 3 of them, saying, "The 3 of you need to improve your thinking and awareness. You need to learn a lot. Pitfall Chu is still far from it." This unreliable bird. However, they found that Chu Yang didn't seem to be swayed at all. Of course, Chu Yang wouldn't be swayed. Apart from his other identities, Eastern Wilderness 002 was far from enough. In the Sky Academy, he would always be targeted. It was better to just let loose. In this way, he could deter them and save himself some trouble in the future. "Everyone, does anyone dare to fight with me?" Chu Yang was like a god. He glanced at the audience and challenged everyone majestically. Humph, you're just a wild dog. How dare you boast so shamelessly? A cold snort rang out. The crowd immediately moved to the side where the sound came from. A tall and sturdy young man walked out with a sneer. Chu Yang's eyes swept over him, and he immediately felt that there was an extremely vigorous power in his body. In his mind, all kinds of scenes appeared. An object alternated between a dragon and an elephant, and finally settled on a divine elephant. Its whole body burst out with Buddhist light, and the sound of Sanskrit was heard. With one step, the earth sank, and thousands of evil spirits were turned into ashes. Dragon elephant of Buddhism, dragon elephant martial spirit. Dragons and elephants have great strength. In water, dragons have great strength, and on land, elephants have great strength. Elephants were serene and dignified, gentle and spiritual, tall and sturdy, and were respected by the ancients as auspicious beasts. It symbolized wisdom and totems, giving people endless reverie and contemplation. Elephants were closely related to Buddha. They were virtuous and wise Buddhas. According to legend, the birth of Shakyamuni Buddha was deeply related to elephants. One day, Shakyamuni Buddha's mother, Madam Maya, came to the pavilion under the Bodhi tree in the back garden. She lay on the bed and unknowingly fell asleep, entering a sweet dream. She dreamt that a white elephant accompanied by a white light descended from the sky and fell into her right rib. From then on, she became pregnant and Shakyamuni Buddha was born. Chu Yang had already grasped the profoundness of elephant crossing the river and cutting off the flow. This person isn't simple. His heart trembled slightly. The East Continent was indeed filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. He had underestimated the East Continent. Xiong Longxiang. It's actually Xiong Longxiang from the inner court. This wild dog is finished. Xiong Longxiang. His martial spirit is the dragon elephant martial spirit from Buddhism. He has great strength. I never expected him to appear. I heard that when he was only at the soul will realm, he killed a spirit realm stage 1 with a single punch. What's even more shocking is that he's not a physique cultivator, but he has great strength. He's even more terrifying than a physique cultivator. How could Xiong Longxiang be interested in a physique cultivator? With the dragon elephant martial spirit, there's no need to worry about his strength. Chapter 1199. Xiong Longxiang walked straight over and arrived in front of Chu Yang. He placed his hands behind his back and stood straight. He looked down at Chu Yang and said, "Wild dog, you only won one match and you dare to be so arrogant? Even if you are Eastern Wilderness 002, I will make you kneel down and kowtow to me today." As he spoke, an invisible pressure rumbled towards Chu Yang from Xiong Longxiang's body. The abundant divine power seemed to be able to open a gap in the sky, and all kinds of energy gathered to form an ocean. Chu Yang's body didn't move. In terms of strength, he had never been weaker than anyone. He directly commented on Xiong Longxiang, "You are slightly stronger than this brat." Boom! There was another uproar in the crowd. Those who dared to say such words to Xiong Longxiang had already been beaten to death. Arrogant! Xiong Longxiang looked down at the world and said to Chu Yang, "In the same realm, I can crush a piece of trash like you with a single finger. To tell you the truth, your talent is nothing." Chu Yang was too lazy to talk to him. He looked at the 3 Nirvana sages in midair and said, "Do the 3 of you want to bet with me in this round? I have 10 spirit veins now. I'll bet 10 spirit veins. Do you dare to bet with me? Or—" He looked at the people from the Sky Academy and said, "Which one of you dares to bet with me?" Spiritual stones, spiritual liquid, and spiritual veins were all needed by the cultivators in the East Continent. The 3 were divided into 3 grades: high, middle, and low. Generally speaking, ordinary cultivators mostly used spiritual stones, and very few of them had access to spiritual liquid. Needless to say, only people like Beiqianxing and Li Xingsan had access to spiritual veins. Spiritual veins gathered the essence of heaven and earth, making the spiritual qi purer and more vigorous. The spiritual energy within a low-rank spiritual vein was enough to allow a normal cultivator to cultivate from the origin martial stage to the soul circulation stage. A middle-rank spiritual vein could allow one to cultivate to the spirit stage, while a high-rank spiritual vein could allow one to cultivate to the soul fusion stage. Of course, this was for ordinary cultivators. If it was someone with a huge appetite like Chu Yang, no amount of spirit veins would be enough for him. Just the worlds formed by the 7 souls were 7 bottomless pits. He had already done some calculations. He had obtained a total of 13 spirit veins from Beiqianxing and Li Xingsan. He had given 3 to Wang Bushong, so he still had 10 left. There were 3 high-grade spirit veins, 3 middle-grade spirit veins, and 4 low-grade spirit veins. Cui Xinho and the other 2 each had 1 spirit vein. The parrot had 1 spirit vein, so there weren't many left. Now that there was an opportunity, Chu Yang naturally wanted to earn a little. Xiong Longxiang was crazy, but Chu Yang was even crazier. His craziness was not only reflected in his words, but also in his actions. Everyone couldn't help but become silent. 10 spiritual veins were a huge fortune, and Chu Yang had actually gambled all of them. If he wasn't so crazy that he had blinded his mind, then he must have absolute confidence in himself. "How about I bet with you?" A voice came from the crowd, and everyone looked over. Suddenly, they saw a golden light and felt an extremely rich aura. Immediately, they felt as if they had seen a gold mine. Xia Wanjin. Xia Wanjin. In the Sky Academy, many people knew that he wasn't from the East Continent. It was said that he was the son of a rich family in the Central Continent. He was extremely rich, and the spirit veins were nothing in his hands. "I hate it. You have more money than me." Chu Yang spoke, and everyone was stunned again. Xia Wanjin was also stunned. "Look at you. Losing 10 spirit veins won't hurt you, but I'll be sad for a while if I lose." Illiterate people who don't even understand the value of gambling, go play in the mud. Chu Yang waved his hand impatiently at Xia Wanjin. Xia Wanjin stared blankly for a moment before nodding. "That makes sense. Wild dog, how about I bet with you?" Lu Yunpeng. As soon as he spoke, everyone exclaimed. Chu Yang finally understood why these 2 things didn't like him. They were probably unhappy that he had taken a fancy to Shangguan Lan just now. "That's my fiancé. What the hell are you guys upset about?" Chu Yang raged. "I'm also richer than you," Lu Yunpeng said. 10 of my spirit veins are equal to 1 of yours. I'll bet 100 spiritual veins for 1 spiritual vein, and I'll let you bet 10 spiritual veins repeatedly. When Xia Wanjin spoke again, the crowd went into an uproar. What was a nouveau riche? What was a tycoon? What was a tycoon? Xia Jinwan was one. Such a bet was equivalent to 1,000 spirit veins. A huge gamble, this was a huge gamble. Chapter 1200. Chu Yang was really angry. He thought to himself, "How dare you bully your grandpa Chu like this? I'll knock you out one day and rob you." At the same time, he was screaming in his heart, "Why don't I have more spiritual veins?" Chu Yang screamed in his heart for a while. Then, the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. He cupped his fists and said to the 2 of them, "You two, you are welcome to use money to kill me." Xia Wanjin was stunned again, and then he said with a smile, "That's a good idea. I think I can consider it." The parrot's eyes lit up completely, and it shouted in its heart, "Chu Hang is really generous, so generous." It screamed unconsciously, spiritual veins, where are the spiritual veins?" Suddenly, it rushed to the audience, crossed its wings, cupped its fists, and said to the audience with a smile, "Everyone, if any of you can lend me a spirit vein, This divine bird will lend one and return two. This damn bird. The people of the Sky Academy were all shocked by the parrot's weirdness. Lu Yunpeng and Xiao Wanjin despised Chu Yang just now, but the parrot was even more excessive. It wanted to gamble with the spiritual veins, even at the expense of usury. Lu Yunpeng and Xiao Wanjin instantly felt uncomfortable. They were attacked by a damn bird, or in other words, were despised by Chu Yang. I've changed my mind now. Lu Yunpeng obviously thought that the parrot's action was inspired by Chu Yang. He said, "Wild dog, one of your spiritual veins is equal to 100 of mine." Boom. The crowd immediately burst into an uproar. If Chu Yang won, he would get 1,000 spiritual veins. I've changed my mind too. Xiao Wanjin also said, the rest is the same, but the spiritual veins are equal to 1,000. 10,000 spiritual veins. Are you crazy? Even if the big families in the East Continent put together all their spiritual veins and pawned all their spiritual veins, it would not be enough to compensate. The people of the Sky Academy were all stunned. #yen%, #yen. Chu Yang had already activated the 3-character scripture. The parrot was so anxious that it wanted to pluck out its feathers. It shrieked, "Everyone, borrow 1 and return 5. No one answered. The parrot was about to go crazy. 1 spirit vein could win 100 spirit veins, and it could even be repeated. Winning another 1,000 spirit veins would be a total of 1,100 spirit veins. Such a big pie had fallen from the sky. If it couldn't catch it, it would leave an eternal stain on its life. No matter how successful it was in the future, it was destined to be an incomparable failure. Borrow 1 and return 10. I'll borrow 1 and return 50. Lend me 1 and return me 100. The parrot's eyes were red, but no one responded. It endured the pain in its heart and roared, "Borrow 1 and return 1,000. It was very tempting, but who would dare to borrow it? Didn't they see that Lu Yunpeng's face had completely darkened? Even Xiao Wanjin's mouth was twitching. This was not a simple gamble, but a grudge between Chu Yang, Lu Yunpeng, and Xiao Wanjin. Lu Yunpeng and Xiao Wanjin despised Chu Yang to the corner, while Chu Yang despised them with the help of the parrot. He was even worse than them. Especially the parrot, whose eyes were red with anxiety, was about to kneel down in front of everyone. For the two of them, it was simply too painful. Being rich is a big deal. Despise is the ancestor. Learn from them. The two of them clearly heard Chu Yang's silent sneer and ridicule. However, the two of them had no other moves. If they lost, they would be in deep pain. 1,000 spirit veins, 10,000 spirit veins was definitely not a small number. Even if they were willing to increase the ratio, it would be useless. They would not be able to look down on Chu Yang. Chapter 1201. The parrot's words were very vivid, and it even went so far as to demonstrate what it meant by a single cent stumped a hero bird. Little bitch, are you serious? Lend 1 and return 1,000. In the silence, Hao Haodong opened his mouth. I have a spirit vein here. I also have a spirit vein. Me too. Cui Xinho and Olajing also spoke. Their spirit veins were naturally given by Sima Jian. Flutter. When the parrot saw the 3 spirit veins, it was as if it had seen its parents. Its eyes completely lit up, and it immediately flew over and collected the 3 spirit veins. Waha, finally there are spirit veins. This divine bird is going to be rich. The parrot laughed strangely like a villain, and then poked Hao Haodong and the other two, because the 3 of you were too slow and almost affected this divine bird's plan of making a fortune. I will lend 1 and return 100. Waha, this divine bird is indeed a genius. This divine bird has finally caught a pie in the sky, and this divine bird has not left a permanent stain on this bird's life. Such a monologue in his heart made Lu Yunpeng's face turn green. Xiao Wanjin's face also darkened, What do you mean by pie in the sky? Do you think I am a complete fool? Everyone present looked at the parrot with a strange gaze. Even Shui Xinho and the other two cursed. Damn bird, you don't keep your words. Waha. Facing the strange gazes of the crowd, the parrot remained calm and composed. In fact, it seemed even more pleased with itself. It laughed strangely and said to Lu Yunping and Xiao Wanjin, Tycoons, do you still dare to take these 3 spirit veins? Humph, it's just 3 spirit veins. Lu Yunping was already flustered and exasperated, and he wanted to directly tear the parrot into pieces. However, to argue with such a lowly parrot, it was simply too shameful. Xiao Wanjin couldn't laugh. He hadn't even started, but his face had already been slapped so hard. I agree. Waha! The parrot was completely relieved after hearing this, and laughed strangely. Chu Hang, this divine bird has finally caught up. The parrot could simply anger Lu Yunping to death. Everyone. Suddenly, Chu Yang cupped his fists and said to the crowd, Everyone, if I borrow one, I will return 1,000. Who is willing to lend me a spirit vein? Chu Yang felt that the parrot's idea was very good, and immediately copied it. In an instant, the whole place was silent. It was incomparably silent. Dead silence. They stared at Chu Yang with even more strange gazes. Shangguan Lan and Shangguan Mei both opened their mouths wide. They were also completely shocked by Chu Yang's actions, because they were too surprised. Plop. Hong Niao was so shocked that she fell from Shangguan Mei's shoulder. Kaka. Lu Yunping clenched his teeth. Buzz buzz buzz. Xiao Wanjin's mind was also buzzing, as if Chu Yang had struck him with a stick. Just now, he and Lu Yunping were too careless. Now that they were used by Chu Yang, they did not even have the strength to fight back. They could only be slaughtered because the ratio was too high. It was like shooting oneself in the foot. It hurts. That was how Xiao Wanjin felt now. That girl. No one made a sound. Chu Yang cupped his fists and avoided Shangguan Lan, saying, When I look at you, I know that you are so charming that even the moon and flowers would be ashamed. When you look back, you will charm hundreds of people. When fairies see you, they will not have the courage to go out. When goddesses see you, they will want to commit suicide. He used endless adjectives to describe Shangguan Lan's beauty, which made everyone even more confused. Chapter 1202. In the end, Chu Yang said to Shangguan Lan with a smile, Miss, can you lend me some spiritual veins? Boom. The crowd was in an uproar. Chu Yang was really crazy. How could he do such a thing? Lu Yunping's face turned blue, and smoke came out of his 7 orifices. Xiao Wanjin couldn't help but clench his teeth, making cracking sounds. The parrot was also stunned, completely stunned, thinking, not only can he make money, but he can also pick up girls, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Why didn't this divine bird think of it just now? No. The goddess spoke, the goddess actually spoke. The field was completely in an uproar. Wild Dog begged, and the goddess actually responded. Chu Yang covered his chest and pretended to vomit blood. My heart is hurt. Shangguan Lan was completely speechless. If it weren't for Chu Yang's good performance when he first entered the Sky Academy and showed the courage and responsibility of a man, when she saw Chu Yang like this, there was only one answer. Break off the engagement, must break off the engagement, must break off the engagement. Wild Dog, are you done being funny? Xiong Longxiang said, I don't have time to laugh at a wild dog like you. Swish. He directly entered the battle-forbidden field. Ha ha! Chu Yang also walked into the field with a smile. Wild Dog, I just said that I can pinch you to death with 1 finger. 1 finger? Chu Yang smiled evilly. He took a step forward with a bang sound. The clothes on his body violently fluttered. His imposing aura soared to the sky in an instant. It seemed as if he had suddenly changed into another person. Bang, 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 bang with his body as the center, the air began to explode, and the void began to tremble, rippling in circles. The void above his head suddenly turned dark, and the starry sky appeared. Stars jumped out, and the starlight fell down like flowing water, soft and dazzling, making him look like a celestial being descending to the mortal world, majestic and awe-inspiring. You said you could crush me to death with a single finger. You dare to say such a thing? If we were in a different place, you would have to pay with your life. Chu Yang sneered, then said, however, you're not much older than Xiao Chang'e, that little brat. Children's words carry no harm. I'll forgive your sins, but I'll use a finger to bully you. Don't cry. Ha ha! Xiong Longxiang was so angry that he laughed. You actually dare to call me a broken child, do you want to die? Chu Yang chuckled. The Academy has a rule that says we can't kill children as we please. Otherwise, we'd be considered inhumane and heartless. They also said that if the children were too immature, they could teach them a lesson on behalf of their parents. Roar. The sound waves created ripples in the void, and the roars of dragons and elephants came out from the bear dragon elephant's body. The sound waves made many people's ears hurt. When the sound entered their ears, they felt as if there was a divine elephant raising its pillar-like elephant leg and stomping down. Their hearts were filled with fear and awe. Many people even screamed in fear. Xiong Longxiang's shocking power was obvious. The parrot's eyes bulged. Chu Hang won't lose, right? If he loses, this divine bird will owe him 300 spirit veins, and turn from a divine bird to a laughingstock bird. Cui Xinho, Hao Haodong, and Olajing had completely changed their expressions at this time. The aura that burst out from the bear dragon elephant made their hearts tremble. They felt that they were like lambs in front of him, and they couldn't help but feel great fear in their hearts. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.